Test. Test.
Good afternoon, everybody. I would like to call the Flint Board of Education annual budget hearing meeting to order at 5:35 p.m. Board members, I call your name for the record. Please say present. Trustee King? Present. Trustee Relaford?
Present.
Treasurer Luna, absent. Vice President McIntyre? Present. Assistant Secretary Treasurer Booth? Present. Secretary Perkins?
Present.
Myself, President McNeil, 6 present, 1 absent. The board will not hear comments and any question. Oh, no. The board will not hear comments from the public and any question regarding the tax levy from the public. We ask that you state the reason for addressing the board and that you limit your remarks to 3 minutes on matter with the authority of the board and not address the individual by names. The presiding officer of the board shall have the right to limit the number of persons who may address the board on the same subject. Please state your name and address first before beginning to speak. Is there anyone here from the public who wishes to address the board? Seeing none, I would like to ask CFO Mrs. Chandra Cleaves to come forward for the presentation of the final budget for the 2024-25 and the proposed budget for the 2025 through 2026.
Okay. Good evening, Board and Superintendent Jones.
Good evening.
Tonight's budget hearing, we're going to start off talking about the 2025 tax levies, and then we'll move into the 24-25 fiscal year final budget amendment, as well as the fiscal year 25-26 initial budget adoption. So for the 2025 tax levies, the total tax rate that may be levied, and this is from July 1, 2025, and it ends June 30th, 2026. So for our operating fund, it's 17.8596 mills. For our sinking fund, it's 1.1703 mills. And for the debt fund, it's 2.82 mills. This comes directly from Genesee County. And also in your board packet, you will see the breakdown that shows how much the taxable value of all the properties is, and then those are the mills that we can collect revenue from, the ones I just stated.
Okay.
Any questions about that? Okay. Now moving on to the 24-25 final budget amendment. So the first column is talking about the budget amendment that came before the board November 20th of 2024. For the budget, the estimated revenue was $84 million, expenditures $101 million, and that will be a deduction from our fund balance, which is our general fund, of $16.8 million. The final budget proposal is for revenue to be $110 million, expenditures $126 million, and this will be a deduction of $16.1 million from the general fund. The variance here, we have $26 million variance from the budget amendment 1 to the final budget. And this increase in revenue is due to additional grant funding we received. So that's why there's a difference there. For expenditures, with it being additional grant revenue comes additional grant expenditures. So that's why there's an increase in the expenditures, as well as we also experienced increased maintenance costs. And then, as you can recall, there was one-time funding allocated for construction costs of the $7 million.
I have a question, though.
So with this proposal for the final budget, it actually will put back additional revenue to our fund balance of $766,000. So on to the 25-26 initial budget.
Can you repeat that number again?
For the fund balance?
700 and what?
$766,905 will be returned to the fund balance.
Fund balance, okay.
For the fiscal year 25-26 initial budget, we have, the first column discusses the final budget numbers, which I just went over. But the proposal for next year for revenue would be $54 million, expenditures of $66 million, reducing our fund balance by $12.6 million. So the variance from the last year's final budget to the initial budget, there will be a decrease of $56 million in revenue. This decrease will be due to, one, the uncertainty of federal funding that we will be receiving, and also we have lost grant funding. ESSER 3 has ended, and about $20 million was carried over into this year of ESSER funding. So we had to reduce that out of our revenue, as well as we had a 5-year literacy grant, and that ends this year, this school year. We are not sure if they'll make it available again, but right now that literacy grant is over. For expenditures, the final was 126. We're at 66 million proposed for next year in expenditures, and the variance is a decrease of $59 million in our expenses, and that's also due to the loss of grant revenue. You also have the attached grant expenditures that you would lose also, so those have to be deducted out. So there will actually be, between the final budget and initial budget, a decrease of $3.5 million. That's the variance between the final budget and the initial budget's fund balance. The budget was based on a student enrollment of 2,500 scholars, and the per pupil allocation is based on the governor's proposal of $10,000, which will be an increase of $392 from this fiscal year. Currently, we receive $9,608 per pupil, so we're estimating it to be at least the governor's proposal, which is $10,000. Also,
I'm sorry, can you repeat that amount? Okay, point information. I'm sorry. Can you repeat that amount per student?
9,608. We also have a House proposal, which is $10,008, and then the Senate proposal, so we're still waiting for that to be shored up to know for sure, but the governor's proposal of $10,000 is reasonable. And also in this budget is salary increases. As you know, we recently settled with Congress, so those increases are reflected in the expenditures for the initial budget, as well as other salary increases for possibly central office, and then we were working on the para union also. Any questions?
So, did you ever, I remember I can't remember which meeting it was, a couple meetings back, I requested to know how much money we had to give back in ESSER funding because because of the closing of Nethercutt. So we had budgeted amounts for renovation for Nethercutt, and because we closed it, we had to pay for that out of general fund instead of out of ESSER funds. How much money did we lose with the closing of Nethercutt?
So with the grant funding, we're actually able to reallocate that elsewhere in ESSER. So the only items that we would have paid out of general fund, I can get a total dollar amount for you.
Yes, I would like a
Okay.
total dollar amount,
Okay.
because how much money did we put into Nethercutt that we thought we were going to get from ESSER and not have come out of our general fund? I don't care if the rest of ESSER was allocated elsewhere. How much did we lose closing Nethercutt out of
Okay.
general fund, please?
Got it.
And then how much revenue are we going to lose now that we've closed Nethercutt with the approximately, what, 100 and...
Was it 68?
168 scholars? Do we have a commitment that these 168 scholars are going to be enrolled? I don't think we have that information. We requested that information in time for the budget. So let's assume, since we don't have that information, that they're not going to be re-enrolled. How much money are we losing because we closed Nethercutt in the fund? I think you can answer that now.
So what I did do was I decreased the student count by $200 to reflect any loss of students in the revenue already.
$200 or 200
200
students?
students.
It's 200 students.
Yeah,
Okay.
a reduction of 200 students is what I budgeted.
Okay. And how much money was that?
So if we go according to the governor's proposal, it's based on the 10,000 per pupil.
And how much is that?
200,000?
Yeah.
I know what it is, I'm just asking, so
Oh,
that it
so
can be
that-
stated out loud, so the public can realize like how much we're missing.
$2 million.
$2 million. Okay, thank you.
Are there any more
20
questions?
million, I'm sorry.
$20 million. The-
No, it's not 20
it's not
million.
accurate.
200
Yeah, 2 million, I'm
times
sorry.
10,000.
Yeah,
Okay.
sorry.
I just,
Which is what?
2 million, right?
So 200 times 10, gotcha, all right, I just want to make sure.
so we've lost $2 million in our annual budget from closing down Nethercutt. Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair,
Trustee Rutherford, then Superintendent.
I just want to clarify, we were running a deficit with that school. How much did that school cost us to continue to run Nethercutt?
So with Nethercutt, what we'll have to do is look at the actual bills, the utility bills, and I
Okay.
can run that information for you.
And including that the staff salaries and the upkeep and the maintenance. So everything that goes into keeping, that would kept Nethercutt going, what would that, can you provide that? I'm quite sure it's more than $2 million.
So with the salaries too, as far as teachers, we are moving them to Freeman. So then we will be able to free up as far as the cost that we're paying for long-term subs. Because
Correct.
teachers will be able to replace those long-term subs in that building. So
Awesome.
there will be a cost savings in that area.
I would just love to see the offset.
Okay.
So, you know, what it,
And if in that offset, could you please include the amount that we still have to pay for the property upkeep? Like, it's not like we're now that Nethercutt is free and clear and we're not paying anything. There are still expenses included in having an empty building. So if you could please offset
Right,
that,
yep.
please.
The
Okay.
utilities and the maintenance costs, yes.
Are there any more questions?
oh, Mr. Jones wanted to say
Mr.
something.
Jones wanted to speak.
Oh, I have a question.
Go ahead.
Ms. Cleese, question for you. When we go back to the fiscal year 2025, 2026 initial budget, in the fund balance, we see for final budget for June 30th, 2025, 16 million. And then we're planning to basically lose $3 million and 500 and some change, right? Could you explain more of why we're seeing that change?
Well, what we're expected to lose, that final budget, of this year is 16 million, but then it will be an additional 12 million. So that variance is speaking to how much we will be losing in fund balance for the final versus the initial. That's the variance. But
Gotcha.
in total, it would be 28 million between the 2 years.
Losing 28 million. How so?
So 16 at the end
No, I
of
know
this
that
school
part.
year.
I know that.
Oh, okay.
Explain to me what contributes to, what, let's say, services, grants, or what's contributing to that price?
Yep, so that one-time allocation for the construction cost, so if you take that out of the 16 million, now you're talking about $9 million.
Yep.
So $9 million would be our increased maintenance costs and salaries.
Okay. So, and that's out of June 30th, right?
Yes.
And then, so what about the other, what, 6 million?
So then the next, so then it was the construction cost, and then the other 9 million was the maintenance cost.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Okay.
And then for the initial budget, that 12 million also includes vacancies. So once we go out through the year, if those vacancies aren't filled, that's when you would true up the budget, and that could possibly decrease.
Cool. So going into July 1, we will have a $12 million fund balance?
No.
Or we will have? Just curious.
So at the end of this year, because it's in the resolution here, give me 1 second here. So we're starting the year, we started this year with a $57 million fund balance.
Okay.
And at the end of the year, the projection is for it to be at $41 million, which
Gotcha.
is the decrease of 16 million.
Awesome. So, well, not awesome, but, so where it says fund balance in your PowerPoint is basically what we'll be losing from our fund balance.
Correct.
Gotcha.
Yes,
Okay.
it's not the actual
Not
fund
the
balance.
actual fund balance, it's
Right.
just what we'll be potentially losing based off revenues and expenditures. And you said in the resolution, we'll be put at, you said
41 million.
41 million, great. And then, so on the trajectory we're at, what is our annual deficit are we planning to have?
So for the initial, you
Yep.
talking about for next year?
Yep.
Okay, so we'll start the year with that $41 million, and then the reduction of the 12 million, so that will leave the fund balance at 28.9 million.
Okay. What are your recommendations to tackle our deficit there in that 12 million?
So in order to tackle that deficit, what we really need to do is look at our staffing.
Okay.
So based on that budget is vacancy. So we're doing work already now to see, are these positions that we truly need? Or are they positions that can possibly be removed? Or, as you know, the beginning of the year, we did a lot of work as far as having additional duties placed on different positions
Yep,
and maybe
increases
not
in-
filling that vacancy, so restructuring.
Okay.
Yes.
Can I add to
Yeah,
that?
okay.
We're also figuring out ways to take positions and split fund them through grants so that you can pull some of the weight of the general fund to grant funding. And
Okay.
we're currently working on some of that right now. We just can't go into detail
Yeah.
currently.
Yeah, I just want to make sure, so 2 things we're doing. We're trying to do grant funded, split positions, and also we already started the restructuring work that was approved a while ago. With that being said, would you recommend anything else for us to tackle the $12 million deficit?
I think, too, is piggybacking to what Mr. Jones said, we really need to make sure we're utilizing the grant funds. So
Okay.
when we're receiving them, making sure that we're able to spend them
Okay.
and offset general fund as much as we can.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
I want to go back to what some of my colleagues was talking about. You take a school like Nethercutt or ALA, are you saying that the only money that comes into this school that you use to support this district is the allocated money from the state per pupil? Or is there other funding that's coming in to a school like Nethercutt? And I'm saying this for the public because this is a good conversation. So when we're talking about how much it costs us to run that district, are you saying that the only fund that comes to Nethercutt or any school that we have closed or got is using just those funds to operate expenditures?
No, so for like general fund, we have to pay for utilities and maintenance costs out of there. But we're able to offset some of our teacher costs and field trips and that type of thing out of title dollars, out of federal funding.
So, in the whole record, when they were talking about we're looking for data, we would like to see exactly how much funds come into a school, not just this school, how much funds coming into a school, and what we're actually paying out, and what do we actually, if that makes sense. It makes sense to me, it wasn't just to anybody else. And I think that'll help the public with us, you got a problem? You're right. Yeah, because I'm trying to make it clear for the public to understand, like, we said 168 kids, $1.6 million. But then we know that there's more than just those allocated dollars that comes in. And so there are, when we're making these decisions, what we're trying to get the public to see is that how much money actually coming in and how much we're actually spending out.
Right.
Because we know that your utility bills and stuff is all set and consuming energy, I think, on a payment plan or something like that.
No, we pay a month.
You're paying a monthly, and we're still paying, but they all together, it's separate now.
They have separate accounts.
Okay, so that is those kind of things that I would like to see, and basically make it available for the public. So when we're talking about closing schools, we're not talking about closing schools, we're also looking at a decrease in your fund balance, also looking at other issues. So I would like to have a little bit more detail. And as we're talking about making these decisions, for instance, our treasurer department, we're responsible, we're the fiduciary of this board. And when we don't do due diligence from the board perspective, and you're coming before us, I just think that from the financial part of it, I think we should have more meetings with you prior to this coming here. Even in some of the decision-making, I know you guys do operation, but at the end of the day, we're the fiduciary. We have to oversee the operation. So I believe that from the board perspective, it has nothing to do with you guys, that we should be looking and working with you on the way. We should follow the policy as it states, so we can eliminate a lot of questions. We had a lot of the information that's supposed to be coming in on a monthly basis. Then we can get an idea of how this money is flowing. I'm not going to blame anybody but the board because we are the fiduciary, and the purpose of having a treasurer is that we should have some information that guides us and lead us and help you guys make the decision. It's not up just to operation of Superintendent Jones, it is also the board responsibility. So I'm just saying that from this day forward, we need to do what we're supposed to do so we can plan. If you close a school without planning, then it creates problems. So I'm just saying that's what I would like to see, that breakdown. The community needs to see that breakdown. The family needs to see that breakdown because they're looking at it from one perspective, and we need for everybody to see the whole picture. Is there any more questions or comments?
I just have one question. I'm learning about the budget, the
Speaking to your mic.
Okay, I'm sorry. The loss of grant funding, was any of that money used at all
Yes.
in that area?
Yes, so we were able to use all of the ESSER funding. We are still spending through the literacy grant. We're in the 5th year of the literacy grant. So we are spending, so I can't say for sure where that's going to end up because we're still using those grant fund dollars, but they will be gone after this fiscal year.
Okay, and there's no way we can utilize that money, that funding?
The grant ends, so we will have to seek additional grants.
Okay.
Yeah.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Okay, Ms. Cleaves. I don't know if you were here when Plant Moran did a breakdown of how we needed to reduce our deficit, operational deficit. And I think at that time, I think we may have had, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, 12 schools? 12 or 13 schools?
Yeah.
11, okay, I knew it was somewhere in there. So we had 11 schools, and they told us with a district of our size, and since then we have lost students, we should be running on maybe 5 or 6 schools. So when that came up, we, as a board, looked at which schools did we need to decrease? Wasn't so much as performance, but we knew we needed to decrease our operational deficit. So when you look at the south end of Flint, we have a abnormal amount of schools in that area. So I think within a 10-mile radius, we had maybe like 4 schools. So the board decided which schools were going to close based on operational debt, not saying that the schools were underperforming or overperforming. As a district, we fly together, we drown together. So for me, this was a decision that had to be made. So as it relates to, I don't recall seeing a breakdown of what each building costs to run. Oh, I am so sorry. I am so sorry. I do believe that Nethercutt was only filled up to 60% capacity. So to me, it's just apples to apples and oranges to oranges. And I just don't want us to get, I don't want anyone to get caught up on what it's going to cost. It's done. So my ask of you is to show us where we are now, moving. We're not going backwards. This is where we were in the deficit. Now that we have moved forward and the students have now been allocated to another school, this is where we are. And we probably gained some more students because individuals see us being, just physically, financially responsible now as a district. So I want to applaud you for being able to answer questions on the spot and to provide things. But I think if we go back to line items like we used to as a board, I think that would eliminate a lot of questions because we could see exactly, because we were seeing the monthly bills as it related to all the utilities and all of the spending. So I think the board would definitely benefit from going back to line item reporting. Thank you.
Trustee King?
Yeah. I want to add into addition what my colleague, Dr. McNeil, had mentioned about having each school, the operating costs, the number of enrollment. I think in that operating costs, we put the salaries different, break out the salary, maintenance costs, all that good stuff, where we can match enrollment to it. I think it's a good idea to break down each school in that way. Put in capacity, where we're currently at, breakdown of grades and all that, really breaking down the school so we can see it from that perspective. So we can have an idea what it looks like, but I think it's when you tie numbers to positions and enrollment and capacity and all that good stuff, I think it'd be better for us to be able to see it for in the future. And the other thing I have a question for you, do you recommend that we look at other school buildings to right size?
I'm not able to answer that right now because I'm just not able to speak to that right now. Because the only thing I've really seen was the Plant Moran report that Trustee Relaford mentioned, but other than that, I wouldn't be able to say my recommendation is to close this building or whatever. I wouldn't be able to speak to that.
When will you?
I think it has to be more consideration with the superintendent and,
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I want to just make sure that the information that the board requested as relates to that breakdown, is there a time frame that you're giving when that can be done?
It's already pretty much broken down, so I can get this to you by, I say, the beginning of next week.
Yeah, I was to say before we have our next financial meeting, I think that would be great to have that information, and so we can move forward with the public. Is there any more questions or comments? You can proceed.
That's all I had.
Oh, that was
Yeah,
that was the end of your budget. Seeing no more questions or comment. Thank you very much.
You do a great job, thank you.
Yeah, you're gonna do this right here.
That was brutal.
The action item. I now call upon Superintendent Jones to present action items to the board, finance and operations.
Thank you, Board President, to the Board of Education. Good evening. I seek a motion and a second from the board to approve 11.20 resolution to adopt final budget amendment.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I move to approve 11.20.
Support.
It's been properly moved and second. Is there any discussions?
Yes, I do want to commend our CFO and our superintendent for the work they have been putting in to right-size the district, along with our executive director of HR. That was some heavy work. We were at $20 million deficit a couple years back, right? And then we're moving down, closing that gap. And I want to commend the work of both the CFO, HR, and our superintendent for leading that effort.
Anyone else have any discussion?
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes.
Community services, what does that consist of? Is that vendors in the district? Is that $4 million? What does that consist of? Community services for 4.1 million. It's on page 11.
I don't have mine. Where is mine? Where is mine?
So that would also include grant funds, but that's like when we hold events, literacy events, different events that are paid out of title, as well as we have a community ed director, and so some of those costs are also in there. But the majority of it is the events that we hold throughout the district.
For me, okay, so maybe you can help me. Which one of these host vendors? Where vendor dollars come from? Which one of these categories?
They could come through any of those categories.
Any of these categories?
Yes, mm-hmm.
Where the majority of them come from? As it relates to-
Operations.
Operations, that's
Yes.
what okay. With that being said, can we, that's gonna go down, because we're decreasing a lot of construction, correct? So if you had to guesstimate, we'll drop from 13 million maybe to what?
Well, part of that 13 million is that 7 million, though.
It's that 7.
So then, I left him over there, but it did drop from my final to the initial for that maintenance line item.
So that's just reducing that 7 million that was taken out. Okay, so that's about 6. That's doable.
But we have, like I said, a lot of maintenance costs, boiler repairs that come to the board for approval. So all of those costs of operating the older buildings is what's in that line item. As
Okay.
well as our security costs are also in that line item as well.
So facilities acquisitions and prior period adjustments, that's 29 million, correct?
Right, those were the remaining ESSER dollars, the cube work, all of that is in that line item.
Okay. I got one more for you, and I'll let you off the hook. No, I don't think I do. I'm done. Thank you.
Hold still. We talk about reducing our deficits. When you first came on, what we was about in deficit, close to 20 million? And you say you got it down to 8 million? Where did we get those funds from? How we were paying, where those funds was coming from to reduce that deficit?
The majority was grant funding, so we were able to better utilize our title dollars. Because when I first came, we weren't really utilizing our grant funds. So then the ESSER funding as well, we had carryover from that, so that helped us out. So we had ESSER, title, those were two of the biggest grants that we have in the district.
The next question I have, because I hadn't reviewed the finance policy in a while, when we moving money back and forth, is there a signature required from the board treasurer to authorize or sign off on moving money and receiving money? Is that process still in place?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. So most of your funds came to reduce the debt was through grants?
Yes. And then the vacancies, like I said, I had budgeted for vacancies, so then we have to true up the budget in the final budget year.
Are there any more discussions? I have a question. Proceed.
So this may not be as much of a question as a comment that you have extraordinary skills, it seems, because since we've been on the board, especially Dr. McNeil and I, earlier than the rest of the board, we have been requesting and examining and trying to look at the data, trying to look at especially the grant funding. and asking questions, can this, so if we had an expenditure that came for the general fund, we would ask over and over and over again, can this be offset by any of the grant funding? Can this be taken out of a grant? We were assured till people were blue in the face, oh, no, 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 we've done everything we can. So I guess it's not so much a question as a big thank you that you have, and I'm not trying to be facetious, I really am not, but it's, thank you, because we've finally gotten to a place where we can actually do some of that work, where we've got these grants, because Flint as a community and as a district deserves them, because we have a lot of challenges. And to be able to take the grants and to put them towards line items in the budget as they're intended, as they have not been done for several years, if not decades, is just kind of a relief. It's maybe too little, too late, but just I just wanted to extend my heartfelt thanks as a parent, as a person who lives in Flint, that you were able to do this when so many others could not. So that's just what I have to say.
Thank you, and I just kind of wanted to speak to that, because what the process was before I came was everything got charged to general fund.
Yeah.
And then it got moved to different grant funds. So what happened was, we can just move it right to the grant funds as we're spending instead of trying to move, because that, I mean, you can forget, or it just leaves a lot of room for error. So if we can just directly hit the grant once those expenses come through, instead of trying to figure out, okay, I have this left in the grant, let me move it over. So a lot of that was just kind of cleanup and just making sure that we are direct charging grants.
Just, again, it speaks to your skill, competency, the fact that you knew what you were doing and did it with fidelity. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Trustee Perkins?
I just want to say, I've been watching you, and you have skills like she said. And I noticed you took a lot of the, if you will, waste in movement, and like she said, directed it to the right place. And so it's very noticeable, and thank you. You do a great job.
You're welcome, thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Cleaves, and we really appreciate that, because we've been trying to get to this for the last 3 or 4 years before the new board members come on, and something just simple as that makes a big difference. You know, because now I'm going like, hey, where does money come from? You know, before, we couldn't even see it. So you bringing light to the district. To the darkness. Yeah, and to the darkness, and that way, it helps us in due diligence. So I appreciate the hard work you do, and I look forward. We sit down and work together as a team as we start to making these decisions and just move forward. I think you've done a great job in that area.
Appreciate you.
Yeah, we really do.
Thank you.
Seeing no further discussion,
Go ahead.
because we're done. Yeah. Seeing no further discussion, a motion to approve 11.20, a resolution to adopt final budget amendment will be conducted by roll call vote. As I call your name, please say yes or no for the record. Secretary Perkins?
Yes.
Trustee Booth?
Yes.
Vice President McIntyre?
Yes.
Treasurer Luna? Absent. Trustee Relaford?
Yes.
Trustee King?
Yes.
Myself, President McNeil, 6 yes, 1 absent. Proceed, Mr. Jones.
I seek a motion and a second from the board to approve 11.21, resolution to adopt initial budget amendment state.
So moved.
Amendment state, yes.
Support.
It has been properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing that there's no discussion, we will do a roll call vote for Resolution 11.21 to adopt the initial budget amendment. Board members, I call your name. Please say yes or no for the record. Secretary Perkins?
Yes.
Trustee Booth?
Yes.
Vice President McIntyre?
Yes.
Treasurer Luna is absent. Trustee Relaford?
Yes.
Trustee King?
Yes.
Myself, President McNeil, 6 yes, 1 absent.
I seek a motion and a second from the board to approve 11.22, tax levies 2025 and 2026.
So moved.
Support.
It has been properly moved and second. Is there any discussions? Seeing there no further discussion, the motion to approve 11.22 tax levy 2025 to 2026 will be conducted by roll call vote. Board members, I call your name. Please say yes or no for the record. Secretary Perkins,
Yes.
Trustee Booth,
Yes.
Vice President McIntyre,
Yes.
Treasurer Looney is absent, Trustee Relaford,
Yes.
Trustee King,
Yes.
myself, President McNeil, 6 yes, 1 absent. Seeing no further business of the board, I declare the annual budget hearing meeting adjourned at 6:14. Your next meeting is at 6:30. Thank you very much. Already posted from what I might have been instructed.
That is true. Immediately following the budget hearing.
What's going on? I hear all this conversation. What?
That I hadn't seen Ms. Traci.
Oh, okay, all right, okay.
I ignored everybody over there.
I would like to call the Flint Board of Education regular board meeting in order at 6:15 p.m. Board members, I call your names. Please reply present for the record. Trustee King,
I'm present.
Treasurer Looney is absent. Trustee Relaford,
Present.
Vice President McIntyre,
Present.
Assistant Secretary Treasurer Booth, Secretary Perkins, myself, President McNeil, 6 present, 1 absent. I will now call upon Secretary Perkins to read the district mission statement and the first statement in the standards of practice.
District mission statement. It is the mission of the Flint School District to develop a community of learners who are prepared to live, work, and contribute in an ever-changing society. The Flint Board of Education standards of practice. In order to provide outstanding leadership and better serve the Flint community schools, we, the members of the Flint Board of Education, commit to the following standards of practice. Number 1, we will be consistent in our dealings with each other as well as students, staff, and community.
We will model trustworthiness and honesty in our relationship with each other, with our superintendent, and with our constituents.
We will focus on a common goal of providing the best education possible for the students in the Flint community schools.
We will respect the diverse view that each of us bring to the organization, as well as the view of others that we interact with as we carry out the business of the Board of Education.
We will be open and authentic with each other, our staff, and community.
As we work to make decisions, we will focus on issues, not personalities.
Our decisions will be student-centered and based on objective facts.
We will, okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
We will practice good listening skills to better understand our fellow Board of Education members and constituents.
Thank you all. I seek a motion and second to approve the minutes from the May 14, 2025 special board meeting, May 14, 2025 Board Committee of the Whole meeting, May 19, 2025 special board meeting, and the May 21st, 2025 regular board meeting.
So moved.
Support.
It's been properly moved and second. Is there any correction? Seeing none, the motion to approve the minutes from the May 2025 meeting mentioned will be conducted by roll call vote. As I call your name, say yes or no for the record. Secretary Perkins.
Yes.
Trustee Booth.
Yes.
Vice President McIntyre.
Yes.
Trustee Relaford.
Yes.
Trustee King.
Yes.
Treasurer Looney absent, and myself, President McNeil, 6 yes, 1 absent. The board will now hear comments from the public. We ask that the reason for addressing the board and that you limit your remarks to 3 minutes on the matter within the authority of the board and not address the individual by name. The presiding officer of the board shall have the right to limit the number of persons who may address the board on the same subject. Please state your name and address first before beginning to speak. Is there anyone here from the public who wish to address the board? Seeing none. At this time, we are pleased to welcome Mr. Windell Greene of Greene Education, who will be joining us by Zoom for a presentation. We are honored to have Mrs. Traci Davis from the Urban Superintendent Collaborative joining us on stage. Please proceed, Ms. Davis, and let us know when you guys are ready for Windell Greene. And please, if you have questions, because he will be on Zoom, speaking to the mic. Do you guys want to ask questions as we go, or just wait until we will wait until the presenters finish speaking and we would ask questions? So write your question down.
She's first, if he said.
Who's first?
I'll be speaking first.
Okay, thank you. Very.
But do they, Pam?
Pam, does he have a handout or he just speaking?
Yeah, don't need them.
Hello, Mr. Greene. Sorry to hear about your loss, and we're glad you can make it. So we appreciate
problem.
you making that effort, at least to come in through Zoom.
No problem. I need to be able to share my screen. All right, so I think I have it now.
Secretary Perkins. That's appreciated.
Is that an encyclopedia?
Secretary Perkins? Yes. You can't help, can you help her? Oh, she got it.
Can we keep that?
Yeah, these are your, this is
You
the
need
work.
yours to keep, just let me know when you guys are ready, we have everything, hand in hand. Just name us something for you.
This is mine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I'm sharing my screen, I can't really see anybody, so y'all just let me know when you're ready.
Okay.
Before, if it's okay, before we begin, Traci Davis, do you want to introduce this whole process of what's going on for the public, how we got here before we get started, or you just want to just him to just hop in?
I'm happy to do that.
I think you should,
yeah.
because there's a clear up any error. We are on Zoom and so the public can understand exactly what we're doing.
So when we were contracted, you want me to go that far back?
Well, wherever you want to start.
Okay,
Well, and why you here, and the
And
purpose.
so today I'm here to bring a summary of our original contract, to look at data.
Pull your mic a
more
little
in the-
closer, probably.
I thought I was using my teacher voice.
It's heavy.
Okay. Is this better?
Yes.
Okay, so originally, in our original contract, we were hired to look at data, to look at pieces of alignment with proficiency rate. In that original request, we provided a packet with all the things that we would look over. During that time, we have worked with the board's academic team. They have provided us with requests to add. That's why you have two very large binders. We'll talk about why we had to do two binders instead of one binder. In fact, I'll explain that process now. As we received requests from the board academic team, there's disaggregate data and aggregate data.
Explain the difference.
I am. That's part of my presentation.
Okay.
My work leads to the aggregate data, and we will talk about that in the actual presentation. Mr. Greene's work actually leads to the disaggregate data. So when you look at the book, one is a book that's school data, and one is a book just whole group data. And I'm going to talk about that in the actual presentation. Talk about our findings, the alignment for me with the strategic plan, Mr. Greene will talk about like long-term data. We'll talk about the difference between NWEA and growth data versus proficiency data. We'll talk about how we source the data and kind of walk through it. And then we'll give some final closing thoughts, and there's a report. Mr. Greene, would you like to add to that?
No, ma'am, I think you did a great job. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Proceed, Mr. Greene.
Actually, that was going to be our introduction, with me just kind of going over what we did before. I'll go ahead and just quickly introduce myself. I am Windell Greene, the founder and president of Greene Education. And I have with me, of course, Ms. Traci Davis, the co-founder of the Urban Superintendents Collaborative. And the purpose of this presentation is for us to offer a review of the work that we performed over the past 3 months, basically covering the things that Ms. Davis just mentioned, which will include trying to improve graduation rates and the overall academic performance of Flint Community Schools. And so today we're going to be discussing our findings, displaying an in-depth analysis of the, as you said, the aggregate and disaggregate data. Have a few discussions about some of the things that we did while we were there, having site visits, classroom observations, and open and honest discussions with the stakeholders, and developing a plan going forward on how to help the district accomplish its goals. So I'll turn it back over to Ms. Davis and have her go ahead and start.
Thank you. PowerPoint? Are you clicking or am I clicking? Oh, am I pointing here or there? Okay, perfect. Thank you. So I'll kick off and talk about a little bit about the Road to Graduation. When we talk about a graduation initiative in the Road to Graduation, I've always said that it starts at pre-K and works its way to 12th. We don't graduate students in the 12th grade. It's the senior year is the summation of their career with us when they walk through the doors of our schools, and typically that's pre-K or kindergarten. As we look at this work and think about the roles around it, thinking about the board's role and state and federal roles around what happens with data that comes back as it relates to proficiency versus growth. So today I'm going to walk you through the aggregate data and talk about that a little bit. I'm not going to spend tons of time because I've shared a lot with you already, so that Mr. Greene can have ample time to allow what he has found in his discoveries and discussion. So big data sources. Where do we get our data from? We both use the same data sources. The CEPI, I use that to understand the graduation and dropout rate and how Michigan calculates the cohorts for the graduation rate. And typically, as I read that piece, they calculate it pretty much the same way across states, because there has to be, when you get to the federal level, some consistency across states. So that looks very consistent when we talk about how we get kids in a cohort, how kids get out of a cohort, how the number changes, and I'll talk about that a little bit in the presentation. The other piece that I used was the interpretive guide. We use the interpretive guide to kind of understand pieces around the data. Now, when I talk about data, I am the aggregate girl, which means I'm very high level. When Mr. Greene talks about the data, he gets into the disaggregate data where he breaks it down by school, and then he gets a little deeper, and we'll talk about those purposes and the difference in the sides. When you talk about growing importance of data literacy, I think it's super important for everyone in the system to understand the data, because sometimes we get confused with different data sources and what they mean. My big picture is M-STEP proficiency data. Mr. Greene's going to look at M-STEP proficiency data and growth data around proficiency rate. I think some of the confusion as we had discussions were about NWA data and how that applied. So first, I'm just going to talk about aggregate data versus disaggregate data. Like, I got to put my glasses on. Yeah, maybe I need to get my laptop. Sorry. I can't read.
Sometimes you might have to get up and walk around.
But as we look at the disaggregate data and the aggregate data, I think the big pieces to understand around that is that when you look at teaching and learning and NWA, Those pieces of data points are really for the superintendent and his team to dig the deep dive and determine what is needed for student success. The aggregate data is like the summative of how the district is doing by grade level, right? Or for me, by grade level. And you can look into subgroups, but I don't get particularly into school subgroups, if that makes sense. So, aggregate data, a student proficiency is crucial for school boards because it directly informs your decision-making, policy development, and accountability to ensure high-quality education for every student that you serve. MSTEP data, Michigan Student Test of Educational Progress, is the Michigan test to determine what that is for and if kids are proficient, partially proficient, or non-proficient. And in the book that we built, you can see those numbers, like specifically by grade level. But with MSTEP versus NWA, there was lots of questions, so I tried to create something for you to understand the difference between the two. Because MAPS data drives instruction. It is usually given quarterly to help teachers instruct kids from where they are at that moment in time. MSTEP data is only, an MSTEP test or proficiency test is given once a year to determine if kids are proficient at the end of the year in that grade level. I think some of the confusion is the growth of MAPS versus proficiency of students. You can grow kids on the spectrum and they still not be proficient at the end of the year. But you need both. We want kids to be, we want to grow kids to proficiency, but I always use the driver's test. It doesn't matter how much you grow. If you can't read and pass the driver's license test, they're not going to give you a license. You got to get proficient, and it's important for students to be proficient. Also, when you look at MSTEP versus NWA, NWA MAPS growth is an internal test because different districts use a variety of assessments to determine how kids are growing. MWA was used, the prior state superintendent implemented and supported NWEA MAPS tests before Dr. Rice, and it was a big push in Michigan. MSTEP is how you get your state report card and how they report out on how the district is doing based on all the schools in Michigan. And it determines funding, ESSER money, how they label schools, whereas MAPS data does not do that. So I want to be clear about the difference. We, Traci Davis, in the aggregate data, did not look at NWEA data because that's instructional. I looked at overall data, how did the district perform year over year. So aggregate data, disaggregate, you got two different books, right? Measures effectiveness of programs, set targets for student proficiency. What do you want to see the district do? There is, in your objective, you have a 5% increase in graduation rate, right? You can see some of those pieces in the aggregate data, and I'm going to share some of those with you. The superintendent and his team really look at disaggregate data, like they look at subgroups, like disparities, who's moving, who's not moving, and what do they need to do to get kids there. All those groups and kids would count in the overall aggregate level. The other reason I stay away from sharing disaggregate data from board members is because when you see it, and particularly there's ways where it'll say one student is proficient in a grade level, in a respect. If you know that that student is female, then you know every male student is not proficient. And then if you knew kids that way, what I'm saying is get you out of violating FERPA rights. All you need to know is at a high level how the district is doing. In the weeds and what that data is for Superintendent Jones and his team. So really fast, if you can click on the FBO, that's a link that should take you out to a data book. It's a big data book now.
Yeah.
So the data book online is combined of both books. So we didn't want to mix up links and get you confused, right? So they're combined, but in your hand, it's separated by aggregate and disaggregate. I'm going to talk about aggregate, and Mr. Greene is going to talk about the disaggregate. Okay, you can go back to the PowerPoint. But the new uploaded book includes both. Thank you. Okay. A cohort year, this is important. So when students graduate, they are assumed to be in a cohort year, class of 2025. When ninth graders enter into the system in any district, they are considered part of that cohort. They count in the graduation rate as they go through their 4 years in high school. Sometimes kids leave, sometimes kids are added. The district, at the superintendent's level and his team, they clean up the cohort number, like when kids leave, when kids are added. But that cohort rate is how you are determine your proficiency. It is not, when I provide you that rate, and this might be a difference in why the numbers were different, it's the aggregate number. I don't break down schools, because if you have 5 high schools or 10 high schools, the way the system actually reports it is as a district graduation rate, and I'm going to show you what that looks like. Okay, calculating the 4-year graduation rate is pretty simple. On track to graduate over selected year cohort total. It's a numbers game, right? How many kids are on track, how many kids graduate versus how many kids stay with you. The important part about this is that if a kid drops out or a kid leaves and they're not unenrolled correctly, it will count against you. And that happens because you got to go find them or you got to do something because they have to either enroll in another school and you have to show that. And that's not just for Flint, that's just, the book will walk you through what the cohort rate, and I don't want to get too deep in that. But the yearly graduation data, so I think there was some concern about the numbers and how we retrieve them. So in the book, I pull this out for you. If you can see the highlighted yellow, the system tells you what your graduation rate is in school data. So if I go back and you see 44%, I just plugged in the numbers for you so you didn't have to flip through all the information. And then, just as an example, remember normally I don't do disaggregate, but for the graduation I did. Then I went through and I showed what ALA was, what Southwest was, and I put it back to show you, and I know this is redundant, but how I came up with the numbers. I just pulled them straight from the website, so there was no guessing to that. And I also pulled the dropout rate. So when you see, okay, it doesn't like me now. So when you see the year-over-year graduation rate, you can see where the baseline was, and I use the baseline as 2022 through 2027 as it related to your strategic plan and 5%. I color-coded it based on, you all like the color coding when you went to Mississippi to see what that looked like, based on your 5%. If it went 5%, I colored it green. If it almost but didn't make it, I made it yellow, and if it didn't, it was red. As you can see, like last year, you went up and you were moving the needle. Does that make sense so far? Okay. And then I made a draft of how we could look at classes year over year to watch students, and then go back to see how they did for proficiency tests, right? From 3rd grade, you could just track cohorts of kids. Literally, if you wanted to track a kid, you could, but for at the board level, what does that graduation class look like? How are they doing? And the reason why is we're going to show some data where you can kind of see trends in where kids maybe didn't do well and they entered into the 9th grade, and you might see where they could struggle. But then that would be the superintendent's job to decide what they were going to do at that school to intervene for the success of those kids. And that's where Mr. Greene and I work together. So we actually look at data together, but we look at it from different views. And sometimes I'll say, hey, I looked at this trend, what did you see? And he'll be like, oh yes, I saw that trend too, or we'll discuss it. Does that, because people ask how does our work look the same and how is it different? I'm aggregate, big level. He takes the deep dive. He gets into instructional strategies, tutoring. I just share information as it relates to KPIs, performance indicators, and alignment to the board. Strategic plan analysis, as we went through the work, there's a disconnect between the objectives versus the performance indicators. So that's really hard for a superintendent because there are these pieces around performance indicators that does not align to what the actual objective is. So I'm just going to do a sample one for you right here. Let me put my glasses on because I really can't see that. And I took priority number 1. And specifically in priority 1, it talks about all district decisions and systems to support the development of the whole child from cradle to career. But when you look at performance indicators, there's nothing that really measures cradle or career. And so either you want to either add something or take something away to make it align so that it makes sense. Like if you're going to say cradle, are we talking kindergarten readiness? Like what are those things so you can actually measure if you're moving the district in the right way? And some of these things are happening, so I want to be clear, I'm not saying it doesn't happen, you just don't measure it. For instance, we know that kids are off to college, right? I was at graduation, the superintendent had kids stand up. That means that they are off to a career, there's something happening, but it's not being measured. So in your plan, you have items that actually don't align. And in some cases, I feel like some of the things that you actually perform, the performance indicators, are really the superintendent's stuff, not board stuff. And so here's my example. Anecdotal notes, observation data, scholar conferencing portfolios, performance, reading, law, that's all, that's the instructional thing. Like, as that work happens, that's done to get him to a place to increase achievement. Otherwise, if you're going to measure those things, you should ask yourself, what does it look like? What is the measurement that you anticipate? Is a 2% increase? So if you're gonna have a 2% increase in anecdotal notes, does that make sense, what I'm trying to put together for you all? What you're measuring as it relates to what you have to say, what you want outcomes to be? There's just a mismatch. So that needs to be cleaned up a little bit so that you're measuring what the expectation is, but also getting out of the weeds of anecdotal records and behavioral interventions. That's stuff that he would share with you, the work that they are doing in the district to help improve, but you aren't really measuring that because you would have to come up with a tool to measure it in a rubric. What's a good anecdotal record? What does that look like? And I actually shared with you all some possible solutions that you could have. And I talk about like reporting out kindergarten readiness, grade level proficiency. If you want to increase in third grade reading overall, a 2% increase over time every year. There's ways to look at that pre-K to 12 where you actually have real indicators that you can measure at. And in the academic team, I drafted a little sheet that would show you what this could look like. And I shared with you at the last meeting how you could look at the data year over year, but also follow kids in a diagonal way to see if they're moving. Because if you look at a third grade score and it goes up and it goes down, that doesn't mean the same set of kids because it's a different set of kids every year. Then you would go from third grade to fourth grade to fifth grade to sixth grade to see if those kids are moving or if are they being more proficient as they move along the pendulum, or are there stumbling pieces, and you can look at math and reading, and then that's when the superintendent and his team would actually analyze the data. But if you were looking at it globally, the aggregate, you wouldn't just want to look across year to year. You need to also look diagonally to see if kids are growing and becoming more proficient over time as they move to different grade levels. As I said, the Cradle to Career focus has limited longitudinal tracking for you to make a difference in deciding. It's missing kindergarten readiness scores, grade 1 and 2 academic levels. I want to be clear that M-STEP, kindergarten through second grade, does not take M-STEP, but the district does have DIBELS data, and they do have NWA data to look at around those proficiency rates. You can look at proficiency rates, how many kids are proficient in third grade, are we growing our kids over time to be proficient? Attendance metrics, dropout rate, secondary enrollment, there's a variety of other things that could be measured that can give you indications on how the district is moving for kids to be academically proficient, all kids. And so I just kind of talked about the current KPIs are a little narrow and output focused and misaligned with the whole child cradle to career. If you go back and look, you can actually say, okay, what's the career piece that you're measuring? You can actually say there's no career piece. If that is important, then we should create a KPI that is a career. I'm not saying it's not important, but there should be some measurement to determine how well you're doing on your strategic plan. Was that me to hit the conclusion, maybe? Okay. Okay, that's fine. I can still talk. So I'll finalize this, and then I'll hand it over to Mr. Greene, and then we'll take notes. So in the aggregate book, we put labels in them so you could actually look at what those topics were. But anything that was created in a sheet, you could actually go in the aggregate detail book and find that number. This book gets into subgroups of students. I did not get into subgroups of students. I looked at the district of the whole, how many third graders were proficient. I did not say how many third graders that were female were proficient, even though the data is there. The question would be, how much data does the board want to see? I went high level by grade level, math, ELA, social studies, and science. I did not dig into the school data because that is Mr. Greene's area. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Mr. Greene.
All right.
Thank you, Traci. Let me take a second here and try to make sure I'm sharing my screen. So again, as I'm sharing my screen, I can't see you guys, so I need y'all to just tell me whether or not you can see my presentation.
Yes.
Yes.
Excellent. Okay.
Yes.
So again, good evening, Superintendent Jones, President McNeil, board members, and distinguished guests. I want to say, first of all, we started our work about 3 months ago, charged with identifying some academic needs. And Flint schools have some needs, for sure. And so one of the things that we wanted to do is here share some of the things about why this work matters. And Flint students, as you can see, have faced many challenges, as all of you know. 4 specific things in particular that we kind of noticed was underperforming accountability scores and graduation rates, the chronic absenteeism, families and students leaving the communities to attend other schools, and the state threats of taking over. So the board asked us to come in and review and evaluate some of the district academic practices and procedures to identify the strengths, gaps, and opportunities. So additionally, we were also asked to visit schools, classrooms, have discussions with the administrators at all levels, and to meet with the stakeholders to develop a clear and actionable plan of improving academic success. In mid-March, the superintendent and 5 board members came to Mississippi to see our work firsthand. And we actually took them to 2 school districts. Now allow me for just a minute to see if I can play a video demonstrating some of the work that they actually saw and the time we had while we were there in Mississippi. So let's see here. Stop sharing that and share it again. All right, can you all see this?
Yes.
All right, let's try.
First. Mississippi.
I'm Superintendent Kimberlin Jones of Flint Community Schools in Flint, Michigan. We're excited to be visiting here today. Actually, we're here this week, just looking at the Mississippi, what we call the Mississippi miracle of how you are able to move your test scores. First, I want to just thank the superintendent and all the staff for just showing us that Southern hospitality and just inviting us in.
We're here in Natchez, Mississippi. We had a great time visiting with the school district here in Natchez, come by to see the museum, and our guest came with us from Flint, Michigan. This is one of the board members, Ms. Relaford. So what we did today, we went to visit with the school district. The superintendent came out with us, some of the other administrators came out, and we did a walkthrough of 3 of the schools. Had a great time with it.
First of all, thank you for the hospitality I would be remiss if I did not say it exceeded my expectations. Just the support, the culture of education, the culture of learning, and partnership is what really stood out to me. I look forward to the partnership, and I just look forward to the opportunity to grow and take Flint schools to another level. I'm Dr. Joyce Ellis McNeil. I'm the president of the Flint Board of Education in Flint, Michigan. The board and I and the Superintendent Jones is doing the Mississippi Miracle Tour, looking at their school performance, looking at data, and how did we get here? By the good news that what Mississippi is doing with the educational system. And we come down here and now we're touring. We got a lot of information to take back to the district.
But what we like most about this is the respect and the purpose that we're seeing in your schools. It's intentional work, seeing intentional work by the consultants that's working with scholars every day, your children. So working hand in hand and glove to do the work is what we've seen and what we appreciate. So thank you all the way from Flint, Michigan.
Okay. All right, so now let me go back to the PowerPoint. Okay. So we were asked again to do a strategic review of the district, and our approach was to first perform site-based observations, conducting school walkthroughs. We did some meetings with the building leadership and their teams. We were asked to review the data and focus on the accountability model, which of course is one of the things we're going to go into in detail in just a minute. We also identified underperforming subgroups, which of course is a part of that disaggregated data. We also had conversations with community leaders and community stakeholders to get feedback on some of the identified systemic barriers that apply to Flint. We also met with a few central office staff to discuss their roles, to do a district-wide process and procedures analysis, and to discuss some of the current providers that the school district has. And that gave us a really clear picture of the current status of the district. So as we were looking through the data, because that's where I really want to hone in on for most of this presentation. And then we'll talk about the other sides of what we predict or what we believe you all need to do as far as to make sure that you're going to the next things or to the next levels. So this slide shows the each component for your school and what it's measured by. I want to make sure everybody kind of understood this process. You see here where 34% of your points towards your accountability model for each school counts under growth, and then 29% counts for proficiency. You have a total of 5 other categories, but those 2 alone carry 63%. So very important to kind of understand that and know what, when you're looking at your state data from MDE, this is how the school index component weights measure up. So here are some trends that you see from all 10 schools, starting with year 2020 through 21, and we also included 21-22 and 22-23. And again, these are proficiency goals or levels across the entire course for math and for ELA. And with this data, you can kind of see some things here. Several schools did show slight improvement over the span of time. So that's a very good positive. But however, in 2023, all schools actually were below 11% for proficiency. And I know I'm going through this data kind of quickly, so if you guys have any questions while I'm going through this, feel free to chime in. I'll be more than happy to talk about it if you need to.
Could you put it in present mode?
I'm sorry, can you say that again for me?
Could you put it in present mode?
Present mode?
Yeah.
If I do that, it's gonna kind of take up the entire screen, but I can try that for you, no problem. Yeah, let's see here, present current screen. That better?
There we go. Yeah, that's.
Okay, give me just a second. Okay. So let me go back to where I was. This again, it was data that I was showing you just a minute ago. And again, all schools were below 11% for proficiency in year 2023. But you do see improvements over the years in several schools. This data actually shows the growth trends for the same years. And you can see that there's some great improvements in some categories, or some schools rather. So very proud to see some of this. I mean, you all should pat yourself on the back a little bit there when it comes to like Freeman, Eisenhower. You can see they're right at over 40%. So that's looking good there. But of course, you can see some other schools that are underperformed. So now you'll see some data that actually applies to each individual subject area. So again, this is going to be proficiency, and this is a percentage of the kids that are proficient. And what we did here is we have 3 different levels. We actually compared, or actually have the schools data, which is what you'll see in yellow. You'll also see what similar schools, when I say similar schools, I'm referring to their demographics. So similar schools, not necessarily close by you, but some are definitely close by you, and then some that are maybe 20 to 40 miles away, not a little further. But they do have similar demographics. And then we have at the very top, that green line there is the actual state ELA proficiency target. So you can see Eisenhower and Freeman performed better than similar schools with their proficiency levels. Right. But you can see other areas where other schools did not do as well. And the most glaring thing I would say there is that the 20 percentile was not reached by any school. And again, this is actually 24 data. This is 23, 24 data. This is your math data showing the same information. And you can see in this particular slide, you do not have anyone that outperformed the schools that are similar. And none of the schools reached over 10% for math proficiency. I'll talk a little bit more when we get into some details concerning the booklet that you have with the state math proficiency numbers. But again, you can see how far away you are from the state math proficiency targets.
It's a shame.
Any questions so far? Okay.
Not a question, but a statement. It looks
Yes,
like,
ma'am.
it looks like we really, really, really need to step it up with the math portion. Because it's not everything, but really the math portion for real. I mean, you can just see it. Yeah, I mean.
I will say, and this is a comparison, here's ELA and then here's math. You can see, of course, math has a lower target for the state. For ELA, it's 46%. For math, it's 34%. So that'll immediately tell you that the numbers typically trend lower for mathematics in the state. However, from a percentage standpoint, the district is further away from the math target than the ELA target. So you do have a point there.
Mr. Greene?
Yes.
The blue represents similar schools, correct?
That is correct.
What are the similar schools that you use?
I actually did not have that. If you actually go to the MD's website, where they have the data on i.m.mi data schools, I think it is, something like that.
My data.
Their website.
Okay, so you just.
They actually have this data provided for you. So
Right.
this is actually comes from your state. This is not, and I didn't actually go through the process of selecting or choosing the schools, because again, they gave a map showing all of the schools that were included in this data. And it was probably about 20 schools that are included in each individual school. And I will say this, each school does not have the same comparison. Even the elementary schools have different schools that are compared. Because again, they went strictly by the demographics by your school in comparison to other schools. So if you had a lower population, if you had a higher SPED population, if you had whatever the differences are, they tried to find schools that were almost similar to exactly what you had. So,
Thank you.
yes, sir. All right. Now we're going to get into the ELA growth components. And again, growth counts for a little bit more. This pertains to the state model. And you can see that Freeman, Eisenhower, and Durant did fairly well. When I say fairly well, they did over 70% toward the state target, which is a really good number. So there are some blows there. But you can see some other schools did not perform as well. And again, these are percentages of the actual students, and I'll get more into that in just a minute. Here's the same information from math. And again, you see the same trend. Freeman did fairly well. I will say not fairly well, they did well. Eisenhower and Durant Mott did fairly well. And the other schools, I would say underperformed as it pertains to the state model. So, to give you a more, rather than giving you just a graph to kind of see, I want to actually show you the actual numbers to give you an idea of how you actually measured across each school. So what you see now is the math proficiency for the accountability model, accountability data rather, for 23-24. And this is for all schools. And you'll see the first column gives you the number of kids that were actually tested, number of students that were tested. The second column shows you the actual number of students that performed proficient in the school. The third slide, the third column, shows something that does not count towards your accountability model, but it's very important to see. And what this shows is that your bottom 30% of children in your schools did not score proficient or were that far away from proficiency. So that's kind of expected for the most part, but your bottom 30% of kids that performed that year did not reach proficiency.
Mr. Greene,
Yes, ma'am.
can you explain bottom 30?
Absolutely. So every student has a score that they're measured for proficiency. And that I don't have that exact number. They have a rubric that determines that with the scale score and raw score. I do not know that information offhand. But basically, whatever the proficiency level is, and I can go through those levels, they have 4 levels that they discuss, or they have rather than performance levels. I'll discuss that in just a little bit. But your bottom 30 falls basically into the very bottom 30% of the schools, or the students rather, for that school. So a good example of that is, let's look at home STEM, since we'll talk more about them than anyone else as we go. They have all the kids account for 100%, of course. So what they do is they look at the bottom 30% and they say, okay, what is the cutoff for the number of kids or number of students that have reached 30% of that 246 number? So 30% of 246 will be the cutoff there for the number of kids. And then they look at the scale score and say, any kid that hit this scale score whatever that score is for that 30, that kid number 30, it's on the 30 percentile, that scale score, whoever hit that scale score, all of those kids count in your bottom 30.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. So it may be a little bit more than 30%. Sometimes it is that way, but that's basically your bottom 30% for the previous school year.
Gotcha.
And can we just add that scale scores change from grade level to grade level?
It does, absolutely. There's a rubric that they have there that depicts what the actual cut score will be. And again, I don't have that handy, and I really didn't want to get into that because, of course, they just tested. So there's a new number out there that could, potentially rather, a new number out there. And of course, there's other information that we need to look at, when the data's released. The fourth column discussed the actual percentage of kids, looking at the number of kids in comparison to the number of kids that were tested. So this is not the actual population. These are the number of kids that actually tested that year. The fifth column discussed the proficiency target for the state. So as you saw that green line that I had before, this applies here. And then you have the target proficiency for that as far as how they actually got their score. So what that means is, and I'm going to give you a good example of it to kind of show you, if you look at Holmes and Southwestern and go over to their proficiency score, their proficiency percentage, you have 1.22 and 1.20 for those two schools respectively. And you can see the target met is very close to those same two numbers. It's 2.64 and 2.53. So what they do basically is say, how close did you get to the actual target? So if you actually scored 43.94, then you would have received a score of 100. If you did half of that number, half of 43.94, you will then get 50 points, and so on. So that's how that score actually shows up, and you can kind of see what that looks like across the board.
Mr. Greene,
Yes.
so the district actually will get more points with middle school and high school. Is that what is that the understanding I'm getting as far as points?
That is correct. Now, there are more students, there are not more students that's tested in high school, but because of all the other components that go into high school, they matter tremendously. Of course, what your graduation rates and all of those things, as we talked about before. But your number of students at home STEM outweighs all the others pretty well. Plus, you have basically all those kids are testing twice in that building. Because I think they are at sixth grade through eighth grade, so every kid will test twice and will go toward the accountability model.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Any other questions? So here's ELA. Basically the same situation as far as what these columns are telling you. And you see the same type of trend, a little bit higher proficiency across the board. And so you can see, remember, that's why that 10.98 for the district counts there, because you can see how everybody somewhere between 20, where Eisenhower hit the highest percentage, and I will go down to Doyle Ryder at 4.48. Any questions? Okay, I'll move on. So now you have the actual growth accountability model for 23-24. So, and this is for mathematics. So you can see the same numbers, the same columns rather, where you have the number of tested, the number of kids that actually grew, the bottom 30 and whether or not they grew, and the percentage of growth, followed by the target for the state, and last but not least, the amount of points that was received according to the target growth, the percentage of target growth. in this particular category, you see where Freeman actually did a pretty good job. You see they're at 75 points for the state. So Freeman did well. Durant had a decent number for 51. But that's, if you go back over from those two, you see how about 25% of the kids at Freeman were proficient. Oh, I'm sorry, would actually show growth. And at Durant, 18%. But you see in some of the other schools, there's some lower numbers. So here's ELA. Again, the tested number, the growth number, bottom 30, and percentage of growth, the target, and the points toward the target. Now, allow me to take just a moment and highlight something that's kind of obvious here for math and for ELA. And this is even more important than what you saw for proficiency, because you saw the same thing there, but when you're looking at your, as they call them, bottom 30, I really don't like that word, but that's what it's referred to. So your bottom 30%, none of the kids showed proficiency, remember that. That's kind of expected. But then you have none of your kids actually showing growth according to your state data in all schools for math and ELA, which makes it somewhat difficult to try to reach those other levels across the board. So I'll pause for just a second and see if there are any questions concerning the data I just presented.
Mr. Greene,
Yes, ma'am.
I remember when we were in Mississippi, those children were so engaged and dynamic, and they knew the material so well. It was just refreshing to look at.
Yes, ma'am.
And I would hope that we could get there with the methods that you use down there.
Good point.
That would be the goal. Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Greene,
Yes.
I guess as a board member, can we stop the bleeding? This is
No problem.
This is surprising. I mean, I can't speak for the board, but just as me, the numbers speak for themselves. I guess for me, I would ask that Superintendent Jones and his staff be able to look at this and have a discussion and a collaboration.
Absolutely.
This is a bit much. This is really, really over the top, but it is what it is. It confirms the scores. I don't think anyone, yes, we are. I'm surprised. It's ugly, but I think it's something that the district can grow from. But I think this is a Superintendent Jones and his staff lift, because that's where the work is going to be done at. The buy-in that I witnessed in Mississippi is exactly on that level. So I just ask that Superintendent Jones, you and your staff have an opportunity to really, really look at this, discuss this, collaborate, and come up with what the district needs to do to move these numbers. They have to move. I can't speak for any other board member, but this is not acceptable. We spend too much money for support for us to be bottom feeders. That's just it right there. I wish I could find a better word. If someone has a word I could use, I would definitely take you up on it. But this breaks my heart. I'm from this district. This is home for me. And to see the amount of money that we as a board approve for individuals to be in our district and to look at data. I've never seen anyone bring this type of data.
Me either.
And my question is, well, it's not for you, Mr. Greene, but I just want to just say, I just would love to stop the hemorrhaging right now, if it's possible. Thank you.
It is possible. I have no problems, pausing there. I would like to discuss the
I got a couple more questions.
document that you have in front of you. Just so you can be knowledgeable of it. I'm gonna leave that up to you. I will basically go over one school. Basically, I was gonna talk about homes.
Mr. Greene,
And just so you can kind of see what that looks like, you're gonna know how to read it, but I think I've kind of covered enough so you to kind of decipher it. It's up to you, though.
Mr. Greene, the board president has a question.
Please.
we had a couple more questions before you proceed. Trustee Perkins.
I was just saying, I'm just remembering the math. It's really gotten on my last nerve, the way I saw those kids. They were proficient, efficient, and everything else in Mississippi. I don't know what kind of magic y'all did. I just know that it was so profound that it impressed all of the board members that came there. And it's so much needed here from the statistics that I just witnessed. And hey, it's our job as the board to speak on these things. We went for a reason. And I see bleeding all up here. And I'm like Melody, now we got to stop the bleeding.
I'm gonna make my statement. How did we get here? I started looking at this here years ago, and it's in our strategic plan, whether we like it or not. The district cannot go any further than that strategic plan. And it started maybe 9 or 10 years ago. There's no way to measure it. We didn't just sit down and write things out. And as it talks about the greater outcome of the district, and that's why we travel. That's why we have a budget to travel. And when I got to doing research and asking around, and we end up with the consultant we have to stop the bleeding.
That's right.
And we saw that the bleeding can be stopped.
Yeah.
We saw that it can happen.
Yep.
We can build all the new buildings in the world that we want. He can go through that, but if we don't stop this bleeding, which it can be done, but it have to start at the board. At the board. The board got to make some decisions. You got to go back and look at step 1 in the strategic plan and 5. And then we got to look at the finance. These children, from this day forward, is getting ready to see a new day. You teach a new way, you do something different, they will sit down and they will listen. And we've been doing the same thing over and over. I'm an expert in this, whether people like it or not. I've been traveling for a long time. What happened to these community kids? They lost interest. And it goes back, as you look back over the years, look at that strategic plan. It's just a bunch of data. So, Mr. Greene, that's why you're here. Ms. Traci, that's why you're here, to help the board move forward. Mr. Greene, to work with the superintendent and help us get out of this. Because you're sitting here as a board member. You took an oath, the greatest outcome of the kids. This is what you want to leave a legacy. I want the public to know we're talking about enrollment and we're talking about making a change, a great change. And we went down to Mississippi, we all saw the data itself. But also the board need expertise in something that MASB cannot provide us. We've been doing it for years, they cannot get to where we at. Nothing bad about them, but I'm tired of taking the same things and getting the same result. Mm-hmm. So I'm just putting that out of the record for me speaking for myself. And Mr. Greene, I really think that it's a lot of data here. It's a lot of good information. There's not one person sitting here that loves children, got grandchildren. Mm-hmm. Should be able to hold your head up high and say, I'm a board member. And they're going to say, what have you done for me? And this is what we're trying to do. Stop the bleed. Teach a new way. Try something different. They'll sit in them seats and they will listen. I'm not going to hold you up, but this is heart-touching. It's no bad reflection on anybody. It's been handed down from years to years. Mr. Jones got it, somebody gave it to him, it was a mess when he got it. It just been passed down, and we're gonna stop it. So it has nothing to do with anybody, it's just that we got to get rid of some things, we got to look at what's not working, and it's time to get some guts, get some backbone,
And
because
stand
these
up.
kids gonna need every piece of information we can give them.
Right.
If you want to proceed, Mr. Windell, you can proceed, but I think you done kind of left us a little speechless here, and not one person that sit here that studied under you guys. I wasn't there, I wasn't in part of the committee, but I think you guys done a great job, and we're gonna have to make some good decisions. And it's just time, I like that word, the bleeding has stopped, because the board is going to do something. When it comes to a child education, money should be not the issue. I don't see them throw away more money than anybody. So we're gonna put the kids at the top.
Thank you.
We call them scholars, let's treat them like scholars.
That's right.
That's all I have to say. Anyone else have any comments?
Yeah, Mr. Greene?
Yes.
So in your presentation under My School Data, I'm trying to pull it up now. Yikes. Could you go back to your presentation when it showed the My School Data? Starting with the first one, I think it was.
Trustee, can you want the aggregate data that he showed in the beginning?
Yeah, straight in the beginning, yep.
What slide are you looking, or what were you looking for exactly? Can you remind me?
The proficiency one?
Which one? There's several of them. Was it math, ELA, was it, the trend, was it?
Oh, I didn't write it down. Okay, all right, never mind, it's
This
okay.
one?
So I remember you had said somewhere in there about similar schools.
I'm sorry, repeat that for me?
Similar schools.
Yes.
Could you go
So
back
was
to
a
that
different
one?
slide. So this is the slide for similar schools.
Yes, got you. So could you explain the similar schools a little bit more? Because so Flint, you know, I don't think there's a community in Michigan that is similar to Flint as it pertains to water crisis that still is happening. Like, could you explain that more? Like, what data? I mean, what schools do you know?
I can get that information for you.
So-
Again, this is basically, this information that you're looking at actually came from the state's website.
Yeah, I'm on here right now. Yep,
Right.
I'm with you.
So, and I'll have to walk you through how to get there. But basically what it does is it gives you that comparison. I don't remember exactly how to get there, but I think it had to do with looking under, for parents, I think it was. But don't give me a quote on that. But bottom line, here's the analysis from what I understood. They looked for similar demographics, not necessarily situational things such as the lack of jobs in the area. They didn't go into demographics such as, I would assume that, going into demographics such as the issues with certain crises that's in the areas.
Yeah.
Of course, all those things are gonna be different. All they really looked for was the reported information to each school district that applied similarly to Flint. And that would probably be, the kids who are on free or reduced lunch, your subgroup populations, your attendance, the number of kids in this particular school, and maybe even, and again, I don't know this, but maybe even something that had to do with the revenue for that area or even for households.
Yeah, Mr. Greene, I remember you
Yes.
had quoted a mile radius. What was that mile radius again?
I want to say it was around about 40 miles. This was the furthest one that I saw from Flint. But again, I didn't look at each one of them. Because again, they put around 20, when I looked at the first 4 schools, just to get an idea of what they were doing.
Yeah.
They put up a map that had multiple points, and it looked like somewhere, and again, this is me eyeballing it, between 20 and 40 miles. So I don't know, I can't give you exact
Yeah.
information there. But I do know that there were schools that were not necessarily right next door to you.
Yeah, so that's where, 'cause being honest too, not refuting the data that's presented, but I know around the state, the MSTEP, it needs some changes to the MSTEP. I wouldn't say take the state test as a end-all be-all, in my opinion, because from a person that had taken the state test, there are some concerns in there from that level from when I had taken it, and from the level where I am currently, because there's board members across the state of Michigan that is advocating that the state look at the tests that we use to decide proficiency, because that test does not. There are some issues with that test in specific. But I'm also curious to know this book that you're on disaggregate data, right?
He disaggregate. I'm aggregate.
Yeah. So you disaggregate, right? So could you help? So this is a big book, sir.
It is, which is why I wanted to take just a moment and kind of go over what you would see in one particular school, so you kind of just get an idea of what it looks like.
Okay, all right. I'll wait till you go ahead.
And I do want to add, it was a request that we put, we were going to stick with aggregate high level, but there was a request to show school data. And in order to show school data appropriately, we'd have to print all the reports out, which is why the book is so big. It was a request.
And that's, the board has a right to.
That's
whoever
right.
requests it.
Could you?
I'm just saying it was a request.
Yeah, and if you, I don't have a problem with the request. Could you send it to me in a PDF?
It's actually, if you click on the link, the board book, it's all in one big link.
Oh, I didn't see all. Let me go.
Remember when I clicked on it and it's like a flip book?
Okay.
You can download that and,
All right.
okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
If I may, I would like to address one of the questions that were, what statements, I don't know if it's a question or a statement, but bottom line, I agree with you 100% concerning state testing. I'm not necessarily a proponent of it, but it's what we're measured by. Every state is. And so we have to go by what they put out as far as where we're being measured as a district, as a community. And so there are issues in every state as pertains to what the Department of Education from the state level is doing. I promise you that. I've seen it everywhere. But again, that's what we play by. Those are the numbers that we have to deal with. And so we have to address these things properly. Rather than looking at other data points, you have to look at this as well. I'm not saying don't look at the other data points, but this matters. And it matters toward the community. So, because that's what's being told from the State Department. So again, that's just kind of the dynamic there. But again, I understand your point completely.
But Mr.
If I may, very quickly, I want to go over.
Hold on one second, Mr.
Sherry.
Greene. We had one more person.
Mr. Greene?
spoke.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Laura McIntyre.
Yes.
Hello, Mr. Greene. Thank you very much for this presentation. I just wanted to point out that this is not your data. This is data that you have spent the time to put together that is out there for all of us. It's available for the public, but as Noam Chomsky would say, we've got disinformation. We've got so much information out there that it's disinformation. And this is, I just want to thank you.
Right.
Like, I know it's a big book, but so is using SSPS as a database, you know, to like analyze something.
Right.
That's what statistics, that's what data is. So this work that you have done to just take existing information that is at our fingertips, but is really not at our fingertips because there's so much of it. And most of us are not trained in data analysis.
Right.
So to criticize the data that you're compiling, I mean, I really would like us to stick to the presentation and to keep it germane, because we can criticize the state of education and the way education is measured and how it's linked to Pearson education and all that kind of stuff. That is beyond the scope of Greene Consulting and this presentation of what we're trying to do. And I think you're absolutely right to point out the fact that, yes, we are being measured on inadequate data and inadequate scoring and inadequate testing, and yet, here we are. And that's one of the things that you pointed out, is that one of the problems that our district faces is that we're under the threat of state takeover. So we're at the mercy of the state. We have to use their data, we have to use their testing, we have to use their measurement system. And I think all things being considered, it is pretty telling that pretty much Michigan is not doing well as a district.
Right.
Whether it's charter schools, whether it's districts that are more affluent than ours. And yeah, you can't say that, well, Flint is its own unique district. Well, that's what you do with statistics, is you measure things that are imperfect against one another. And one of the reasons why I stopped doing quantitative analysis, because it drives me nuts, because I always get into the weeds with the disaggregate data, and going to the aggregate data really frustrates me, because I think it's bureaucratic violence to kind of miss that wealth of information that you get from disaggregate data. But that's not even the point. So what we have is the state saying, hey, these are the districts that you're being compared against. We don't have a choice with that. So thank you for Greene Consulting for just putting it out there like it is. We have to face this head on with our eyes open. And like Dr. McNeil was saying, we're not blaming anybody. If anybody's to blame, it's the state itself and the federal, and the way that we've been disinvested and deregulated and defunded for literally decades. So what are we going to do about it is the question. And what I think this board has shown, or most of the board has shown, by going to Mississippi, by looking at the wonderful things that you and Ms. Traci have been doing with districts, stopping the bleed, actually having the heart, not just the resources and the intelligence and the systems to make a change, but actually really caring about it. Because what I see is this machine just rolling along and just rubber stamping things that have existed for so long that we're stopping it. We're saying no. We want to bring humanized math. We want to bring the Mississippi miracle, and we want it to become the Michigan miracle.
Amen.
And the board is saying that. Now, the board has a fiduciary responsibility for all of this at the end of the day, and we are mandating, because we are the Board of Education and we're eventually going to be taking a vote on it, that this is what we want to see happening.
Right.
And it's going to happen because we're going to vote on it and we're going to say so. And then
Point of
that
information.
is,
What's your point?
I was just curious, what do we want to see happen?
so as I was saying, we're going to get to a point where we're actually going to make a vote on something. We're going to take a decision, and that is what the board is going to mandate is going to happen, and we're going to follow through and see that it happens, because that is our role, that is our job as a board, and then the district takes its instruction from our vision, and then we stay out of it because they're going to do the work. We are going to stay out of it, but the work, make no mistake, the work is going to get done and is going to happen, and if not, then that's when the employees of the district are going to be held accountable from the board. So there's this distinction about what we do. We mandate the vision and what's going to happen, and then it becomes implemented. And that's what we're trying to do now. And I'm just getting a little frustrated because every time we try to do something revolutionary, while we try to do something to like stop the bleed, as you say, there's just opposition, and it's coming from the same places, from the same stakeholders who have the same people putting up roadblocks. And so the board is going to vote and act as a whole, and then that's going to be that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, very well said. And we know that the board is gonna, because we do everything by vote, and everything is by process. We know that with Mr. Greene, I'm just gonna get cut to the point. We know that this here project here will
Madam
probably,
Chair, can Mr. Greene finish?
when I finish, and we know that this process is gonna take a moment. We know that it's gonna come through Title I, whatever, but we're not voting tonight on the Greene stuff because we have to wait till the fiscal year and give Mr. Jones time to do that. So make no doubt about it, and I don't want Mr. Green's or feel shortchanged that we criticizing or doing anything like that. We just want to be clear, when we take a vote, what the majority of the board wants, we can do this respectfully without criticizing, and I just want to make that clear. And Mr. Greene, I would like for you to continue with your presentation.
Thank you. So very quickly, and you can just follow along with me, or you can turn in your binders that we have for you for the disaggregate data. If you pull a little tab for homes, you'll see the first page under for homes discusses the school index, the overall school index, and that gives you the overall scoring from the State Department's aspects. So I can show you some of the details behind that. But bottom line is you'll see what that score is, basically giving you an idea of where that school is in reference to how many points they received out of 100.
20.13.
There's a breakdown of that data on the next page. The third page gives you the school index for proficiency. And when you see school index, that's both math and ELA. And you can see the actual targets here, as we talked about before, for the state.
Yeah.
And then the overall scores broken down by some of the subgroups.
It's terrible. It's so bad. Terrible.
On page 52, you'll see the school index for growth, showing you how many points they received there. Again, showing you the targets. And then again, the breakdown by subgroups. And lastly, you'll see the school index quality and success board, which tracks a number of things, including attendance. The next few slides, where you see the different colors with the graph, that information shows you the performance summary for all the students, and that'll show you a comparison, that comparison that we talked about. That'll be homes, STEM, and then you'll see a comparison. It's in the pink, and then the orange will be the actual state average. So you'll see again how the school would compare to not just,
This page here.
this is, actually it's not numbered because it was so many pages. But if you just, I don't know if y'all can see this well, can you see this okay?
The last page in the.
It's in the book.
It's kind of small print, but yes.
You can see it.
Okay.
Yeah.
You'll see it looks like this.
Yeah, we see it now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, it's-
And you'll see a 3-year comparison there. So this gives you really good information as far as where the school is across the board. You will see the ratio of students in comparison to the instructional staff. Qualifying teachers, of course, you're looking at whether or not they have the certifications. Your EL population, that'll be the English learners. And that's it. So again, you'll have, this gives you a bird's eye view of each individual school and its data. I hope that's helpful.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
It's a fun question. So looking at this data, and we just gonna say, for instance, if you was coming aboard and you see this data here, what are your projection, how the time frame that it would kind of take to kind of turn this around or see a little growth. And I know there's going to take a whole village to get this done. The parents wants to get involved in it because they'll see us doing something different. So by your experience, what do you see that it would take to kind of see a shift? And this would be the roadmap for every district. If they can see Flint can change, because I've been doing study. We got kids live in Flint, go to other school, and they're having the same issues, the data. So what do you see that you, if you had to take on this here task, something, what do you see that would take? I don't know if I want to even put you in that spot, but I know you guaranteed your work. So how difficult you see is turning this around on the time frame?
Mr. Greene, before you answer that question, when we met with the academic team, one of the things we really didn't get into in this meeting, because there's a lot to talk about. But there are a lot of kids that are partially proficient, right? And if we can move partially proficient kids to proficient,
Yeah, that's
right?
what I'm looking at,
Then
yeah.
you get to move kids faster, and then more non-proficient kids to partially proficient, the system will start moving faster. And I know for a fact, in talking to Kelly and her team, they're looking at some of those pieces already,
Oh,
right?
good.
But I just want to say, we don't talk about the partially proficient. Mostly we talk non-proficient versus proficient, but it's important to say that there are kids, groups of kids that are partially proficient, that if we can get them moved based on whatever, this is the deep data, this is the disaggregate where the board is in the weeds, like looking at individual students and providing them with what they need, that's the superintendent. Those kids can move to the proficient faster. And then you can take over that question.
Okay.
Sorry,
King.
trustee.
I got a quick, wait, he was gonna finish that. I want to make sure he finished that first.
Yes, thank you. So, and I just do want to chime in a little bit on what Ms. Davis just said. You do have 4 categories that are performance levels is what they call them, that are measured. And so you have advanced, proficient, partially proficient, and then not proficient. And so one of the things that you want to look for is, of course, and I had this conversation with central office, the focus should be on proficiency initially. You know, because that's going to really help the graduation rate improve over time. So if I had to say what I would want to target initially, it'll be proficiency. And then as proficiency starts moving, then you want to start looking at growth overall. So that'll be trying to target some of those kids. And let me back up just a minute. When I say proficiency, I'm referring to what Ms. Davis just mentioned, those kids who are partially proficient and who are currently proficient and or advanced, because you want to keep them there. You want to keep them moving forward. Because each year, from one year to the next, if a kid is proficient in year 6 and then goes to 7th grade and is still proficient, that kid is actually grown. Because they went from one, even though they stayed at the same level, they went from one grade to the next, showing growth. So that's one thing to kind of keep in mind. And so as we're looking at what we would like to see, what we can help with, and what I think the district as a whole is actually looking at currently, that would be to focus on proficiency initially, and looking at trying to grow those kids who do not have a chance of proficiency, because you want to get them toward that. And then last but not least, you still want to target those that low performing students. And so that would be the process as far as the student part goes. Throughout the entire process, you'll be focusing on teacher support, I will say even leadership support as far as academics goes, as far as instruction goes, and the same thing for central office. And I'll give some kudos to the central office, because some of the things that we discussed with them back in April on our last visit, they're actually implementing right away. And so I see some of the conversations that we had, some of the things that they have talked about, the things that the initiatives that they already were considering, and they've started those things. And that's, again, some of the stuff that we didn't even talk to them about. They came up with some of the ideas themselves. So just to give them kudos on the work that they're progressing to kind of see the district move forward. So as you can see, and I think y'all can see my screen again.
Yes.
We do have some goals for the district. I just named one. You also have some of the partnerships that I see, especially the one for capturing kids' hearts. I think that's going to be a key component, because you have to build that morale You have to improve attendance. So that particular program can, I think, help in the long run for that, for sure. The instructional improvement when it comes to that launch, explore, summarize, and reflect, that's being implemented with more, vitality, I think. And so they also implemented some of the PLC foundations from Solution Tree. I believe I know that's going to actually help a lot. We use that here in Mississippi as well. And so those things, including the partnerships that you all are talking about and holding people accountable as you go forward, those are the things I think that will make the difference. This will be a process, no question about it. It will take it'll take years to get all of the things going, but you can see progress immediately by implementing some of the things that we've talked about and some of the solutions that we can provide personally by coming in and supporting your students directly. And I think we talked about doing some high dosage tutoring, for the kids. We talked about focusing on the middle school because of how much it counts towards your accountability model. And I know that with that work, whether we focus on ELA, math, or both, of course, I would recommend both, naturally. But you can do one or the other if you so choose. And by doing that, I think we can start showing that Flint is capable of doing great things. So I'll go ahead and stop my presentation there. I just wanted to talk about those goals real quick. I do know that if there's any other questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them. And I will stop sharing my screen now and turn it back over to you guys.
Mr. Greene?
Yes, sir.
Hey, I want to tell you, thank you for the deep dive that you have taken. The way you are able to articulate these numbers and talk about it is impressive. I do want to make sure I'm clear that when I ask questions, it's just simply to gain understanding and insert context. So I'm the person that's always going to ask questions. It's not me being interrogative or not me trying to discredit the work and the time it had taken you to put into this, but it's for me to provide context and to gain information that you're presenting. So I want to make sure I'm clear that it's not me. You just presenting to us what the kids already taken, and that's all right. I just want to make sure I gain clarity where you're coming from and how you would help and aid. Okay?
Absolutely.
Perfect.
And
Thank you, sir.
I always, no problem, sir. Thank you. And like I've told my students since I first started teaching, there are no bad questions. The only bad question is the question not asked.
That you don't ask.
So I appreciate your questions. I have no problem answering them. And if anyone else has any questions concerning my information, of course, you can ask Ms. Davis any of the questions that she may need as well. We're here to answer.
Mr. Greene?
Yes.
I'm sorry. Mr. Greene, I just wanted confirmation. So I wrote down here tested twice. Is that elementary, middle, or high, or all grades?
It's all grades, I shouldn't say all grades. All of the grades that are for M-STEP are tested twice, but it's not in every building. So like, for instance, in elementary, you have kindergarten, first, second. Those kids are not tested.
They should.
So those kids, even though the population may be, somewhat high, that population is not tested. So you want to focus on the number of kids that are tested, which is what you saw in the data that I shared with you, that spreadsheet, where you saw, I think it was like 246 kids that were tested at homes.
Right.
And I think the total tested for the entire district was right at 1,000, or a little over 1,100. So you have a high percentage of kids out of that one school, so it counts more, especially because every single kid there for 6th grade, 7th, and 8th, they test in both math and ELA.
Okay. And last question. With the proficiency, I didn't hear parents. What part did the parents play in regards to the increases that your company was able to see in school districts, if at all?
That's a great question. More times than not, you always put forth the effort to include parents. We have newsletters that go out as part of what my team does to just inform parents on where we are, what we're working on, what's your kid or what your scholar needs to be able to do, and even giving them some ideas on how to actually help them with the instruction when they're not in the classroom, when they're at home. So we're not able to really effectively track how supportive those parents are, but you can see it with the kids as they're improving. So there are times when you can see that. Sometimes it's not necessarily parental support at all. Because just in full disclosure, there's as you all know, Mississippi is not well off as it pertains to demographics. We don't do very well there. So, but we do, have some good scores, but because there was a focus on certain things, like the ELA piece, which you all heard about with the Mississippi Miracle. But as far as with the math and work that we do, math, science, ELA, and other areas, as far as parents go, it's hard to measure that, but we can see that once we're in the classroom, but there's no actual data that I can share with you.
All right, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
And if I'm correct, the parents actually get a summary of their kids' data sent home based on all my readings, and it aligns and gives them a kind of an in-depth report of how their kids are doing to move forward as it relates to proficiency. So what they do with it is one thing, but they do receive a report.
Good.
And I will say this, Ms. Rutherford, I forgot to mention this part. We also are very, I don't know a better way to say it, but we are very hands-on when it comes to supporting our community that we're in. And so we do reach out to parents in ways like providing parent nights, doing certain donations to encourage kids to do well. We develop those partnerships through those events to make sure that parents know that we're here to support them as well as those students.
That's good to know. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
And Mr. Greene, also, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, yeah.
Also,
wrap it up.
I watched the teachers. They were so engaged with the students, and the students seemed like they were in love with the teachers. I mean, and that helped them, I think, to want to learn and be competitive. It was really something to see. I was really happy to be there.
Okay.
Yeah, we do have a huge focus on engagement and using specific strategies with our teachers and with our consultants to make sure that they know these are things you do to encourage engagement across the board.
Can I give some final thoughts before you ask all the questions? I want to speak to the idea of K-1-2 taking proficiency tests. And I love the academic team, but I'll push back. I think in K-2, kids are learning to read. By third grade, they're reading to learn.
Right.
And so proficiency tests in a kindergarten would be really weird because you got to learn blending, chunking, letter sounds, second grade schwash, diphthongs. I'm going over your head, but there's a reason why. Like, it is too in-depth, right? Until they get to the third grade when they can put it all together at the end of the third grade when they test. So I think there's a reason why we do not give kids in the lower grades proficiency tests, but we do give them readiness tests. And so we need to look at those pieces and MAPS tests. Are they growing to grade level? So when they leave second grade level, are they ready for third grade? Superintendent Jones, the kid who graduated the valedictorian from ALA, and then I'm going to close this out. What was his name? Do you know what I'm talking about? Okay. Okay, James, right? So when we talk about Flint, for sure has one of the most unique stories in the country, what would have happened. But I remember that kid getting up at graduation, taking a moment of silence. Remember when he put his head down? And his family must have been behind us because she said, God is good. So while we look at test scores, I get that. And they are important because it is a trajectory for a kid. But every kid has a story that made it. And if that kid could make it during a water crisis, couldn't every kid make it during a water crisis? So I don't think it's about how low the scores are or could they be higher. It is how we continue to grow kids. When you look at ALA for the past 3 years, their graduation rate has grown from 17% to 19% to 29%, right? And that's a challenging school, right? But there has been clearly deep work done. I don't want us to miss the opportunity to think about, yes, you are unique, but every kid who exits you is unique and deserves a chance at life, right? To be able to go on to be whatever they want to be. And how do we create opportunities and measure them? So when you think about a measurement, what would be a reasonable measurement? Is 3% increase a doable number? And that's a conversation with you and the superintendent's team based on data. Well, if you have so many kids non-proficient, because I'm going back to the question we did not answer for you, President McNeil, like how long is it going to take? It takes time to move a system. It took me 6 years to make an at-risk school, 1,200 kids, non-proficient, free and reduced lunch, to high performing. But we did the work over time and we showed growth. You want to show growth to a proficiency too, not say, can we get it done in a year? Because you know that's not a fair, you can't ask the superintendent for a 20% increase in proficiency. That's just not fair. And that's not fair to the teachers and the students. But what would be reasonable for you to progress monitor in your strategic plan to show you are moving in the right direction?
Okay, good information. Is there any more questions?
I'm going to just say this. Since you came, and I did not understand how to read that data and stuff, but Sister Traci showed us, and I'm telling you, it all made sense finally. It really made sense. And then when I heard her presentation and Mr. Greene's presentation, I saw how they were just intertwined and it made sense finally. And now I get it. So I just want to say thank you to both of you.
I want to say thank you to everybody. Thank you for your presentation. You guys will be hearing from us, or we'll be hearing from you. It relates to contracts. You can get them in. You can send them in to Pam Beer or Mr. Jones, however that would be, and we can proceed and have that information to you. Thank you very much. I would like, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And condolence to your family.
Yes.
Thank you.
I would like to ask Ms. Califield to join us and proceed with the academic updates and partnership district quarterly presentation.
Yeah. So I'm going to start this, Board President.
Okay.
If that's okay?
Proceed, yes.
All right. Okay, so we had our presentation as you all know, we've been in our partnership agreement with MDE for the last couple of years. And we had our partnership district quarterly presentation on June 12th, where we had our ISD partners, State of Michigan partners, who am I leaving? Our principals, and some of our central office staff, and Ms. Fields led that along with myself. And so we wanted to make sure, as customary with the partnership, that we gave you some of the information from that presentation. So we're not going to do the entire presentation. It was like an hour and a half. So we're not going to do that, but we condensed the presentation to kind of talk about some of the glows and some grows, some areas that actually we kind of hit on them in the last presentation with Traci and Mr. Greene. And so I want to make sure that we talk a little bit about some of the areas that in our literacy goals, our system goal, and our math goal, and areas that we've reached, areas that we need to grow in. But I also want to first start out by saying that Board of Education, you reached your 36-month goal. And we're just now finishing. What are we finishing? What goal is this we're finishing?
So are you talking about for our governance goal?
The governance
As far as
goal.
our governance goal, the board met their 36-month mark, the 36 benchmark goal already.
Yeah.
The importance over the next 18 months till the 36th month will to continue that work,
Yeah.
to continue to do board workshops, to continue to work collaboratively together,
Yeah.
and to continue to govern under the goal as it's stated.
And so some of the things that you're working on and some of the places we've been, and that's a part of 7+1, right? We've been able to come together and do that work. And so Ms. Fields is going to talk a little bit about our literacy goal, some of the areas that we did well, some of the areas we need to grow, and then we'll tag team through so that we can try to get through this and get moving into some of the action items. So, Ms. Fields, I'll turn it over to you. Thank you.
Sounds good. Thank you, Superintendent Jones. Well, as the superintendent has stated, we had shared our goals the previous week, and just to remind you quite quickly of them, we're just going to jump into the data, our own data that was presented at that particular, the GISD MDE quarterly meeting, with our goals of the literacy goal for math and English. In addition to that, we have process goals that are rooted in literacy for the diverse libraries and the literacy implementation plan.
Hold on, go back just for a second. So I don't want to skate over diverse classroom libraries. I think it's still important for us to focus in on diversity, to focus in on equity. And our classroom libraries are being filled with books that look like the kids that are in there. Whatever they have decided to be, whatever they're doing, we take pride in that. And I want to take a moment just to thank the teachers, the academic team for choosing books that look like our kids, choosing books that not only just stick with gender, but equality across the board, right? And what kids have decided in their lives. We are not here to tell a person who they are and what they're going to be.
Yeah.
That's not our job. But our job is to make sure that we have equality across the board and equity across the board for all of our scholars. So those diverse classroom libraries, although contentious in the states, we are standing strong with making sure that we are putting books in the classroom that looks like our children.
If I could also, Superintendent Jones, not only are we putting the books in front of them, we're making sure that they don't get dusty on a shelf. They're clearly labeled. In addition to that, we have, we're following the guidelines by the state of Michigan in regards to the DEI supporting lessons that go with them and finding opportunities for young people to be able to read books that are inspired regardless of their culture and that they can touch bases with that are sitting in their souls in a way that I think is also important to the purpose of proficiency and helping students to access success. In addition to that, we've developed a literacy implementation plan that has the gold standard, an acceptable standard, and an unacceptable variation, which has been built into a walkthrough tool that we'll be utilizing through next year to ensure that the practice of instruction are being observed in the rooms that we go into and where our students are receiving that top quality instruction. As it pertains to our data, you've seen this data through the lens of Greene Education and through Ms. Davis. And again, we had a conversation around, she did a beautiful job of explaining the idea around disaggregating data and the aggregated data. One of the things that is not reflected that in our presentation that is a little bit different from Ms. Davis is that our numbers are included with all students, not just full academic year students, which could present another set of numbers for you if you're looking at all students versus just your full academic year students, which the state of Michigan measures for us in our school index scores. You'll see that at least out of our schools, 5 of our schools were able to make their 18-month benchmark progress, and then we'll be able to share with our data probably, I'm hoping, in September or October, somewhere around there. We didn't get them last year until November that we were able to get them out of embargo, but that doesn't mean that we don't pull our data down before then and look at the unembargoed data at the building level where we're able to go ahead and draw those numbers. I also think it's important to point out that all of the data that's been shown this evening, every principal holds a progress monitoring tool where they are on a monthly basis. They're also following those same data trends using the same data sources from the Michigan's data source in the dashboard. So our last testing window did not go exactly as planned, and I'm not going to go ahead and paint it like it's something pretty that's up there. Only 4 of our schools were able to show growth through every measurable window that we had, from our baseline at our 18-month benchmark to our 23-24 school year to our 24-25 school year. You'll see that Brownell was consistent in raising their scores. Eisenhower, Nethercutt, and Southwestern has been consistent in raising their scores as well. In addition to that, some of the other areas where you'd see that play out, and I think there's a nice correlation between the data that was just presented to you and the data that's being presented here, is the correlation between that growth at Southwestern has also led to an increase at both ALA and Southwestern in the number of graduates graduating per year. We also have math goals that are also measured, and again, they're the same. The state sets those goals for us. That doesn't mean that the goals set at the building level are only 1%. Our building level principals make sure that they want to make sure that they're at 50% or better for their NWA growth, but they also set individual goals of 10% or more to make sure that they can include that growth for the and access to success for students. Some of the ways that we ended up doing that through math, and we're going to talk a little bit about literacy too, is through Envision Math, our algebra, offering algebra 8th through 12th grade, geometry, algebra 2, and pre-calculus. NTN has been dispersed upon the entire district and providing push-in coaching for teachers, pulling out in small group, and supporting with the math initiatives across the district. Through the opportunities of the core curriculum of Reveal and Illustrative Math, and then we also have trained curriculum members in math recovery that have been trained in the district supporting those initiatives as well. From NTN, we had 142 coaching sessions in all 8 of our buildings that were provided to our teachers this year. For our M-STEP math scores, again, these are the difference between the two is that we tethered out and pulled out all students, where the dashboard for my data is only measuring the full academic year students. And you'll see that Brownell, Freeman, Nethercutt, and Potter all were able to meet their growth goal for proficiency in the M-STEP data. In NWA growth for math, we have a trend in some of the same schools. Eisenhower was able to go ahead and hold progress with subsequent progress throughout the 3 years that we measured for. And in addition to that, Southwestern also has shown progress as well in both literacy and math.
So can
Yes,
I
sir.
add?
Yep.
So I kind of went over this with you all board in the evaluation, but what I want to make sure you understand the issues around kids learning today and what's going on, right? And why we need, we need some targeted special work done. When you talk about students, 42.3% of our scholars in the district that takes NWEA, 42.3% met their target growth. That does not mean that those scholars are at grade level. That just means that they met their target growth for the year. So they can be underperforming at the grade level, but meeting a target growth. Growth is good. It shows that the student just didn't sit there all year and did nothing. It shows that they grew, right? And they met a measurable goal for the year, but it does not mean that they're at grade level. Now, the proficiency that you heard talked about, that means that those students are at grade level. Okay, so I just want to make sure you understand that as we move forward. Thank you, Ms.
You're
Freeman.
welcome. So where Ms. Davis had explained it's not her job to get into the weeds, it is our job. And that job is to make sure that we're doing intentional interventions for Tier 2, Tier 3 students that go ahead to support the instruction that's necessary in order to get to the proficiency that the superintendent is lifting. And so we did some deep dives into the data, and we went down to the classroom level, to the student level. One of the things that was outstandingly clear with the data is that there was a direct correlation between the schools that had the lowest amount of chronic absenteeism and the schools that had the highest amount of chronic absenteeism. And the correlation was clear. Eisenhower fared very, very well with their progress in the making forward in proficiency and growth, but they also had the lowest chronic absenteeism in the district. We also looked at in the classroom level. So when we got down to the classroom level, one of the things that we discovered was across the board in the buildings where they have an overwhelming number of of uncertified teachers or long-term subs that are performing in classrooms, we showed the lowest growth as well. Doyle Ryder has, I think, the highest number of uncertified teachers in that building, and they also have the correlation of also low growth and proficiency in that building as well. So certified staff is crucial to have, classrooms that are manageable and that teachers can instruct in, but also the initiative of ensuring that we are utilizing all of our resources for the purpose of making sure that students are in school, and not just for the purpose of they're missing because their parents kept them home because they could be sick, but also addressing what are the things happening in school that could be eliminating them from the classroom through suspensions, and by ensuring that we have appropriate resources and interventions that allow students to stay in the classrooms and not at home, because when students are present, they learn. The last thing I'd like to say about the data that's been shared tonight and the data that's being shared right now is that I think it's important for us to remember that in the state of Michigan, we have a problem across the state. 60%, and from the same data source of which Ms. Davis and Mr. Greene pulled that data from, 60% of students in Michigan are not proficient. And so this is not just a problem that's germane to Flint, this is a problem that is across the state of Michigan. The reality check is that growth data tells the truth. Pockets of success are just not enough. Too many students are stuck, especially in math and early literacy. We cannot expect different results with the same behaviors. Accountability is not blame, it's ownership. And no more soft excuses. Every day matters and every instructional move matters. What does it take? It takes systems and not speeches. Growth is built through systems, not slogans. Instructional walkthroughs have been scheduled for the fall, and we'll be checking on small group instruction, student talk, pacing with timely feedback, and things that align to the literacy implementation plan. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah. Thank you for this slide, because this slide talks about, when you talk about the second bullet, one of the things that when I was in Ms. Field's position that, and a little bit before, that was very successful is instructional walks. But what's going to be unique about these instructional walks, these instructional walks are not just the academic team, but there's other teachers. Mm-hmm. There's other principals going into other buildings and classrooms. So that, now, one of the things about the Mississippi Miracle that's different than Flint that we have discussed is they were able to go and tell staff and teachers, hey, this is when we need to meet and we're going to meet. There's a difference here in Flint. You only have so much time with teachers, so much time with administrators. Y'all have to understand what I'm saying, that we have to negotiate ways to get the time that is needed and take that extra time that was easily gotten in Jackson. All right, so it's going to take some more work for us to be able to get folks to come to tables so that we can have more time with kids. But one of the ways we're doing it is these instructional walks is happening during the school day, where we're going in classrooms, watching teachers teach, pulling out the grows, pulling out the glows, and saying, this is what's working over at Nethercutt. No, sorry, shouldn't say Nethercutt. But this is what was working over at Potter, and this is what we need to take from Potter and put over into Brownell, mm-hmm. right? So trying to have that cohesive classroom instruction is what's going to make a difference in the work that we're doing at this level.
Additionally, if I could say too, that those collegial walks where our goal is to also support teachers the same way we would support students. Those teachers that need more intensive supports, then our goal is to go ahead and build profiles and plans for them with professional development that can support them appropriately. In addition to that, we've built mentorship profiles and some other type of things we're going to talk about just in a couple minutes. So also PLC biweekly meetings, protecting that time for teachers to be able to talk where we can center student data and that can lead to real instructional shifts. Making sure that we are utilizing the resources towards an MTSS framework and identifying students that are in need of Tier 2 and Tier 3 services, and then making sure that every student shows progress, and then when they don't, that we review and we monitor and we inspect what we expect and be able to go ahead and make the shift to find what resources can support the student progressively. In addition to that, attendance teams and chronic absenteeism has to be addressed like an academic gap, and we have to make sure that we're utilizing the same strategies that were used at Eisenhower to make sure that the chronic absenteeism was low, making sure it's being implemented to fidelity at every building. Lastly, every leader, not just keeping track of their data on the progress monitoring tool, not just having conversations with GISD about it, but building opportunities for principals to be able to learn and glean from each other and be able to support each other in implementing plans that can show true success. And that goes from following from the top to the bottom. Lastly, from excuses to execution are 4 big moves. Again, instructional walkthroughs with feedback loops. Those are intentionally scheduled to align to the LESR, the literacy implementation model, and math look-fors. Data-driven PLCs that are based on NWEA and student work with bi-weekly action steps for Tier 1 and 2. Lastly, the monthly Tier 2 and 3 intervention reviews that I talked about, no silent data. Every intervention needs results. Daily attendance monitoring, adding those things to the dashboards of the principals so they can be looking at their daily attendance monitoring. And then last of all, understanding that this isn't about perfection, but it is about progress with urgency. Some of those other things that we're doing to help that, priorities as we look for, things that we've done, a number of our teachers have had letters training, which will help with that K-3 education. That's focusing on the phonetics, and it's an expectation of the state that we do that. We've already spoke about the diverse classroom libraries, and then making sure that all K-6 schools have implemented at least 3 critical components of the literacy implementation plan, which includes small group instruction, the Haggerty boxes, LCON boxes, student-led conferences, and such. Our priorities is going forward is a mentoring process, ensuring that when we have folks mentoring each other, that they have a monthly checklist, that they would have documentation of those particular items that would support that. Data-driven Office of Academics, we will be strengthening our academic team's understanding of data mining, data conversations, and collaboration with the Greene Educational Services, pending board approval. District learning walks, developing a data hub for collaboration with partners, and then effective program and evaluation tool to include the hexagon evaluation tool, which is recommended by the state, to ensure that when we have programs and we purchase them and we use title money to invest in them, that we ensure that they have impact, and if they don't have impact, then we no longer continue to utilize those services. I think that we've already talked about your governance goal. We pretty much talked about attendance, and the last 3 things on here that were shared with our district partners and our MDE partners was shared about our bonus structure. And I know that you all have heard the wonderful work that Ms. Montgomery has done in the HR department in putting together a great campaign for a bonus structure to ensure that we are able to get general education teachers, part-time teachers, and special education teachers. Up to $24,000 for special ed teachers and up to $10,000 for general education teachers. Last, our employees will be a part of that process through the employee referral program, being able to gain the financial bonus of $350 bonus for a person that we bring to hire as a successful district hire. Lastly, for our DEI goal, the principals and the school staffs have done wonderful in supporting these initiatives. 100% of participation in PBIS professional development at the GISD. Once again, it's anticipated that we will receive awards for the 25-26 school coming year. You usually get those in around October or November. And this past year, we earned the silver and bronze in many, bronze and silver in many of the categories of impact data and in data utilization. And then a celebration of the fact that we had 7 schools, I think, that were nominated for Capturing Kids Heart School, and we had 5 of them that were recognized as National Showcase Schools. We've already kind of discussed these next steps to continuous improvement, the importance of the board continuing training, the importance of us making sure that everyone is on board for recruitment efforts of making sure that we can get teachers, both part-time and full-time, to come back to the district, and that that's not just a responsibility of one person, that's a responsibility of all. And then again, we've already talked about the diverse libraries.
So I can't stress, go back please.
Yes, sir.
I can't stress the work that has been done in our business office and human resources to ensure that we are out there making sure we're dotting I's with our funding. And that has been a successful place for us with our partnership with the ISD. And just thinking about the ESSER, when we talked about ESSER, we've been talking about ESSER for the last couple of years, but for Flint to be able to spend our funds everywhere I go and have that conversation about that, we're still turning money back in, but Flint Community Schools did not do that. And of course, I do want the public to know that we did get our $1.4 million, and we did not have to turn $15 million back in. So I just want to be clear to the public that Flint Community Schools did allocate all those funds, and we are recouping the $1.4 million. So I just wanted to state that, but also the work of the academic team as it pertains to ensuring that this partnership agreement has been done in order. And that's what we've been doing over the last couple of years. But this is work that's going to continue. This is work that's hard, and we can do the hard things. Anything else, Ms. Fields?
Just lastly, to talk about the importance of impact and funding and how we've been very successful in utilizing strictly grant funding to be able to fund all of these projects. It's been a pleasure to work with our title grant director this year. She has a lot of ideas about how we can better utilize some of these funds as well to be able to support the partnership agreement across the board. So you'll see on there, you can take the time at your leisure to know that we use 31A funds, Title I funds, regional assistant grants funds. ESSER did fund some of the diverse libraries, and we've been really, really successful in being able to fund all of that and none of this touching the general fund. And then finally, if you have any questions, and I hope that was a nice little update for you.
I do.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Fields, question for you. So I remember you had said 60% of the state. Can you repeat that again?
60% of the state is not proficient in ELA and math. And that data comes directly off my data too.
60% of the state?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do you, in your expertise, do you know why?
I think that I don't think that Flint is germane to just the problem. I think that it's a statewide problem. We have educators that have left the state of Michigan. We have people not going into education, and so there's teacher shortages. I think that there has been industrialization that has taken families out of there too, and a lot of those numbers, I mean, it's a lot of the numbers show out that way because of the fact that we've had things
I'm
late.
curious, did the pandemic skew some numbers throughout the years?
Absolutely, it did. I think it was last year. No, year before. Yeah, no, I think it was last year. Either year before or last year, the numbers were inflated, and the reason why they were inflated was honestly to accommodate for the COVID issue. And so I can give you, for instance, your school index numbers. They showed much higher than they actually probably really were because those thresholds or those cut scores were set at a different cut score. So for instance, 3 years ago, the cut score for school index scores was set at 26.4. And then the following year after that, they raised the cut score very high to like 36.3 or something like that. And therefore, it looks like your school index scores are actually declining, but they weren't really declining because the state had already inflated the cut numbers to give you a higher score, basically. Another example of that is one of the things that you're measured for in your school index scores, and they did the same thing with math, with English, but attendance they had set at 95% was what you had to have your index scores. To reach the highest point of the index scores, you had to have 95% of your attendance. The year that they went ahead and adjusted, they dropped them down to 75%. And so we only had to reach the level of 75%, which quite frankly, that year, just about everybody did it because we were just coming back off of COVID. And so your numbers exceeded and looked a lot better than they really were because there was an inflation in the cut scores.
Gotcha. And then also, when you had mentioned about growth, right?
Yeah.
Let's say we get a scholar from a different district, or let's say they've been around to a couple of charter schools. So are we still stuck with their growth, wherever they were?
So as far as your state measurement is concerned, the state, when they measure, they only measure for full academic year students. We, however, we're accountable in our district for every student that we have come into our district. So many times, the data that you'll see in front of you is taking into consideration all of our students, not just part of our students. The other thing, too, is that we had, there's some of the data says this is the growth for all students that showed growth. That may not necessarily take into consideration some of the students that didn't take the test accurately or seriously, and so it would be an invalid test score for them.
Okay. All right, thank you, Madam Chair, I'm finished.
Thank you.
Madam Chair. Ms. Fields, how are
Yes.
you? I think I spoke to you already, but I'll say hi again. I appreciate you. I thought I heard you say that you work with the Greene Educational Service.
Yes, ma'am.
You did have work with them, and some of the things the suggestions that were brought forth, you guys are currently doing those. So I think you heard what we heard tonight, and I think I hear the sense, also in Mr. Jones, what you showed was some more information. I think for me, as a board member, I'm looking forward to the collaboration of the staff that we have that work with parents, the collaboration, and just everyone having a good discussion, collaborating, and coming up with what's the best approach for us to increase. And to be honest, I don't care what the state is doing. But what's concerning to Trustee Rutherford is Flint schools. As my mama would say, if they jump off the bridge, you go jump too.
I appreciate that remark.
So it just comes a time, I believe in the staff here. I just want the staff to feel empowered to do what needs to be done to move the needle for the students. So I just want to publicly say I support you all in the move. There's going to be some changes, and I just ask you all to allow it, give it grace, so that we can move forward, because a lot of things have been in place for a very long time, and we've always done it that way, and I think now is the time to stop doing it that way, because it's not working.
The Office of Academic
Thank you.
looks forward. Thank you again for your comment. The Office of
You're welcome.
Academic looks forward to our pivots and are excited about the ability to be able to lead into a new day.
Good. What you say?
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Board President. I seek a motion and a second from the board to approve Resolution 1.14, Personnel Recommendations.
Madam, support.
It been properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Ooh, Madam Chair.
Yes.
If you guys can go to that first name under professional, and the grant field monitor. And I just want you all to look at the person's qualifications. And I just, as the HR chair, I don't see how they could do it. The qualifications and the job description, I see a big gap there. Sure. I'm looking, when you see the title of the job, which I know what that job entails, and when I look at a diploma and a CNA certification, I see a big gap there.
Yeah, I was. Oh, I'm on the wrong page too.
And my reasoning for that is not too long ago, we had a staff that had degrees and experience, leadership, and I just need some help with that. That's not good.
A master's degree in education. Urban school.
So, I mean, we need to look at this stuff before we get to, as the HR chair, this could have been alleviated if I had the opportunity to look at this. That's, I need help with that.
Point of information.
Sure.
So you did not have this information previous to the meeting?
It was on board book.
Right, but that, I'm not,
No, oh, I get it.
I'm
No.
not, I'm just trying to figure out, okay, so, point of information. When did you get this information?
I looked at it. Well, I saw it in board book, but I would have liked to have had the opportunity to look at that before it even got that far, because I would have questioned it. Because right now, money is not going to be flowing the way that it's been flowing in this district. And we really need to be cognizant of every dollar that we have and how we're spending it. And if you're not qualified, you're just not qualified. So it makes me wonder, who are you some kin to? That's good money.
Okay, so, yeah.
So just to let you know, first of all, the position is a part of the restructuring plan that the board had already approved previously. In addition to that, if you look at the job description and the requirements, the person actually meets the minimum requirements, so it's an entry-level position. And in addition to that, with the job description, or not the job description, I'm sorry, the resume, the person is currently a family engagement facilitator, so they kind of already monitor things with family. They have case management experience, banking experience. So those are the qualifications that we looked at to base. That's the reason why we extended the offer, based off of their job history that they have in relation to the job description. I don't know if the person is related to anyone. We don't ask that question when we interview. We just base it off of the qualifications. There's an interview panel that it goes before, and they make a recommendation like they would every other position that we have with the district. This person in particular, they would be assisting in maintaining files for federal, state, and grant programs. They would coordinate with grant staff to schedule meetings, manage supplies, and send required communication. They would assist the Director of State, Federal, and Local Programs in the review, preparation, and editing of the consolidated app. They would assist the Director of State, Federal, and Local Programs in reviewing, editing, monitoring, and submission of designated grants. They would organize and maintain PARS, time, and effort documentation, and assist with the biannual certification of that documentation. Support federal grant staff in organizing federal grant program activities, including professional development for staff, parent meetings, and student activities. Prepare files and documentation for annual audits. Assist in the monitoring of compliance for school-wide programs, targeted assisted programs. Collaborate with department directors, Office of Academics, principals, teachers, and other positions. Monitor all purchase and expenditures made with federal title, Section 41 and 31A, improvement programs for compliance. Prepare and submit compliance reports as needed to the director.
Ms. Montgomery,
Uh-huh.
we do a conflict of interest form, so I don't, we handle what we've already talked about when it comes to hiring. So,
Point of information.
yes.
Oh.
I'm talking about a person with a high school diploma making $50,000. That's my problem.
I have people on staff that do
No,
not
no,
have.
no. I guess if I can finish.
Okay.
Point of order, you're in a point of information. What's your point of information? It's in the form of a question.
That's normal for a person with a high school, is it normal for a person with just a high school diploma to make $50,000 and our teachers only start off at 38? Is that normal?
That's the end of the point of information.
That's the question.
That's the entry rate for a person coming in within that classification.
With a high
Point of
school-
order.
Okay.
You don't have to answer that.
She already
It's a
did.
point of information, and there's no back and forth.
Okay.
Okay, we're moving on.
Okay, my question would be.
It's ridiculous.
Talking to Mike.
Oh, sorry. This is grant, this is through a grant, is it through general funds or grant?
Grant.
That's what I thought. And I don't think it's unusual for a person to be, I wouldn't say high school, because you see that she got experience and everything, and sometimes work experience is equivalent to college experience. And we have to kind of get past that mindset and deprive people that can do the job because and they got more work experience, and which is equivalent, because I do that type of work. I compare your work experience with what I'm looking for. And if you got the work experience and having somebody with a degree and can't do the job are two different things. But we have to be careful how we internalizing this. But you gave me some good information, and I don't see a problem with hiring this individual. Is there any more comments from the?
So, how do I put this? So we're tasked with putting our trust in you to assume you're doing your job and doing it efficiently. And there's the restructuring, we've got the jobs, the job descriptions, the requirements for the jobs. I think, and I want to say that and I'm hopefully assuming the rest of the board has their faith in you. We're supposed to be just here going yes or no to the recommendations. These are recommendations. That's what our job is, not to get into the weeds to examine and interrogate every single job applicant for every single position. That being said, I don't want to discredit Trustee Relaford's concerns. I wanted to separate, I just want to make sure those things are separated. Now, Trustee Relaford, I agree with some of your concerns that this information I would like to see, given that you're the chair of the HR subcommittee, I would like to have more faith in the process, that the information gets to you, you're able to ask questions in a subcommittee form or in perhaps a board committee of the whole if there are questions that come up. So what I'm saying about our role as a board member and having, it's not a ding on you at all. And I'm acknowledging your concerns as legitimate and valid, and that I share them. So with that being said, I would like to, I don't think we should get into the weeds in terms of like looking at the qualifications and this and that, but is there something we can do so that we don't fall into the pattern, the old pattern of where just things are brought to the board without enough time to peruse and to ask questions. We need to get back into a system where individual board members feel comfortable and have enough time and adequate, you know what I'm saying, like whatever. I'm tired. They just have enough time so that they can ask questions. So perhaps we could take this, subtract this. What is the word? I am losing my mind. We can move forward the rest of the positions and maybe table this. And then Melody, or Trustee Relaford, if you'd like to, arrange for or call for some kind of a committee of a whole, or.
Well, with all due respect, I don't want to hold it up, but I just want consistency. That's all. I just want consistency. That's an outlier. That's the only reason why it caught my eye. That's all. I want HR to be known to be fair to everyone, not a select few. So this just sends a bad, it's just, you know, I don't want to prevent this from moving forward, but I just want it noted that that's an outlier.
Okay.
Can I just finish?
Sure.
though?
I'm sorry.
I just want to say that I don't think it's an outlier. I don't think that there's any suspicion or doubt cast on your, and what I'm proposing, I'm actually proposing something that if there's a problem with this, that we do something outside of this motion to make sure that it doesn't happen again. So the onus is on you as the chair of the HR committee to, you know, to do the work so that these kind of questions and casting aspersions of our HR director don't happen on the floor of a committee of a whole meeting. Thank you.
Okay, I want to speak on this here. When we first designed these committees, we went from the subcommittee to a committee as a whole, and we put chairperson on there. And I noticed that we don't have these dates. Normally, we used to have these meetings certain month. HR have their meetings certain days. This person have their meeting, and we don't have that anymore. It is up to the chairperson. You know, when we having these meetings, you're supposed to be having a subcommittee meeting, but we decide to make the meeting as a whole so we can get a lot of things done. And it's the board responsibility to make sure that, hey, and it would be nice to say before we would know when all of this come, back in the days, not too long ago, we would have a fine art committee, subcommittee. And then we went from the 3 to the board as a whole. It is our responsibility as a board to get this data, and then if you see something on it, call 2 or 3 of your board members up and say, look, we might need to have, and we're gonna put in a slot, I need to have a meeting as a whole so we can have this discussion, because one board member cannot make a decision up or down when you bring this form. It have to be 4 or more. So they can even your subcommittee, if you can't get everybody, but have somebody. But you guys do not have subcommittees meetings anymore. Since we went to a committee as a whole, I don't think nobody's sending anything to Pam, what day you want to have your meetings on, none of that. So we just, every now and then we having meetings, but we're not calling these meetings. Each one of these here, finance, all of these are supposed to be detailed what day you're gonna have them. If she saw something on here that she didn't like, or any chairperson, she could contact 2 or 3 board, at least 3. And then we can look at, hey, what your concerns are. Then you might have to bring 4 board members and say, hey, we don't want this on here, on this agenda. Then that's what you say, we're sending it back. But after it gets to this point, I would assume that you guys have done what you have to do. And then we putting you on the spot, and I don't like doing that because I trust that, I trust the work, and I don't think you have to have a degree to make $50,000 ain't no more than 20. It probably $18 an hour where things are. So I don't have a problem with that. So that's all I have to say. We as a board, we're gonna govern ourselves a little bit better, and we got to, I don't know what the time frame that your executive team can get this to the different people. And trustee, I'm gonna get you next. Okay. But we got to put something in place. You're the chairperson of your committee. Academic, if you got something going on in academic, you just can't go to Ms. Fields and Ms. Fields give you something put on there. You got to let the board know. You shouldn't be having a one-on-one with her, because if come here, then we're gonna be asking questions. So it can't be just one-on-one. You got to have at least 3, or say, hey, they bringing some academic, then send out a memo and stuff. I'll send it to Pam, and Pam will send an invite. Pam is our executive administrator. Y'all should be sending that to her. Hey, Ms. Field brought me something. I'm sorry to use your name, Ms. Field, but she brought you something. Then you contact Pam and say, hey, I need to have a meeting as a whole. And then she'll send out an invite. That's how it used to be. Now, when all of this other stuff that came along, I don't know how it gets like that. But if we stay with the format that we was using, if HR had brought this, Trustee Relaford could just, hey, we need to have a meeting on this, and send an invite to your executive administration. She'll send an invite and say when we need a meeting. But we just cannot wait till we get to this point and putting people out there. Trustee King.
Yeah, Madam Chair, thank you. I would say that to Greene with partly what you were saying and partly what my colleagues were saying, I mean, we received this board book June 13th. That was 5 days ago. I think it's pertinent where when there's a board book notification where we review it, look over where our section is. But I think we're disconnected in this instance. We didn't have a cow. We only have one meeting, this month.
In June, yeah.
So if we would have had a cow, right? We had the conversation with the cow as we normally do, have the discussion, talk about things, and then regular board meeting. But in this case, there's only one meeting. As it pertains to like a timeline, I'm curious to see or hear one of my colleagues like later on when we do operating procedures, define a timeline what we would like, whether it's a week in advance. Whether it's 10 days in advance. If 5 days too short, hey, let's increase the days if you want more time to ask questions. But I think there's where our part as board members to read the information prior. And if we have a question, reaching out to that reaching out to the superintendent first to have a conversation with that leader of that
Thank you.
area. Say, hey, I have a question. I want to talk about this. 'Cause I need more clarification. Because that's what I do all the time. If I have a question about something, I want to say, hey, can you explain this to me a little bit more? I need help. Then I give my explanation, and that's less conversation. But I think when we define in our operating procedures, how we like to be communicated to and the time frame. That's all for me.
Okay, so what was your question, Mr. We're voting. Seeing there's no more discussion. You seek the motion?
I did.
Okay.
And voting on it now. Roll call.
We just did discuss. Seeing no further discussion, a motion to approve resolution 1.14, personnel recommendation, be done by roll call vote. Board members, I call your name, please say yes or no. Secretary Perkins?
Yes.
Trustee Booth?
Yes.
Vice President McIntyre?
Yes.
Trustee Relaford?
Yes.
Trustee King?
Yes.
Treasurer Luna is absent. Myself is a yes, 6 yes, 1 absent.
Keep going.
Are we batching? Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. I seek a motion and a
Yeah.
second from the board to approve Resolution 1.15, authorization to extend staffing service contract agreements.
So moved.
Support.
It has been properly moved and second. Is there any discussion? Seeing no further discussion, we'll do a,
I did have.
trustee McIntyre? What page?
What's the breakdown between the general funds and the grant funded?
Page 41.
I'd have to get the percentage for you from the business office.
But it's just to extend the
Agreement,
contract.
correct.
Okay. I can find that out later. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing no further discussion, we will conduct a roll call to accept Resolution 1.15. Board members, I call your name, say yes or no. Secretary Perkins?
Yes.
Trustee Booth?
Yes.
Vice President McIntyre?
Yes.
Trustee Relaford?
Yes.
Trustee King?
Yes.
Treasurer Luna is absent, and myself is yes, 6 yes, 1 absent.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I make a motion to approve 1.16.
Why are you doing this, Jones? Wait a minute. Mr. Jones has the script. Okay, you throwing me out. We're going by the script. Jones, you took his part. Yeah,
I'm seeking that motion.
okay.
Support.
Yeah. all
It's
right.
been properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing no further discussion, the motion to approve Resolution 1.16, authorization to approve insurance, the vendor agreement by roll call vote, yes or no. Secretary Perkins?
Yes.
Trustee Booth?
Yes.
Vice President McIntyre?
Yes.
Trustee Relaford?
Yes.
Trustee King?
Yes.
Treasurer Luna absent. Myself is yes, 6 yes, the motion passed.
I seek a motion and a second from the board to approve Resolution 1.17, agreement between the school district of the city of Flint and the United Teachers of Flint.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I move to approve item 1.17.
Support.
It's been properly moved and second. Is there any discussions? Seeing no further discussion, a motion to approve the resolution 1.17, agreement between the school district of the city of Flint and the United Teacher of Flint, UTF, will be conducted by roll call. Board members, I call your name. Please say yes or no for the record. Secretary Perkins?
Yes.
Trustee Booz?
Yes.
Vice President McIntyre?
Yes.
Trustee Relaford?
Yes.
Trustee King?
Yes.
Treasurer Luna is absent, and myself, yes, 6 yes, the motion passes. Board members, in your packet on page 780 is the information regarding retirement and resignation. Do any board have any questions? Seeing no further question, Mr. Jones, proceed in item G.
All right, thank you, Ms. Montgomery.
Finance and Operation Committee.
I'm going to ask Ms. Cleaves to come, and we're going to go ahead and get started. So I am going to ask that we table 11.23. There's some more information that I need in order to proceed with this. So I'm going to table 1.23.
11.23 has been, will be tabled until further notice.
I'll keep going.
Keep going.
I seek a motion and a second from the board to approve Resolution 11.24, authorization to I'm sorry, you want me to pull this one too, right? The stage for Freeman?
No, he's asking her. Pull it.
Okay. 11.24 will be tabled. All right.
Proceed, Mr. Jones.
Yep. All right, I seek a motion and a second from the board to approve Resolution 11.25, approval of lawn and snow maintenance services.
So moved.
Support.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussions?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I just want to applaud them because I always see them ace moving, and I don't have any complaints. So I publicly want to tell them thank you and keep up the good work.
Yes. Any more discussion? Seeing no further discussion, a motion to approve Resolution 11.25, approval of lawn and snow maintenance service conducted by roll call. Secretary Perkins?
Yes.
Trustee Booz?
Yes.
Vice President McIntyre?
Yes.
Trustee Relaford?
Yes.
Trustee King?
Yes.
Treasurer Luna is absent. Myself, yes. 6 yes, 1 absent. Proceed, Mr. Jones.
All right. I seek a motion and a second from the board to approve Resolution 11.26, stormwater management services and compliance assistance services.
I move to approve item 11.26.
Support.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? 11.26, stormwater management service.
Can I just ask for a
Yes.
little bit more information on this one?
Yes, so the proposal is, of course, for the stormwater management program support. And what this is state law that we are compliant. And what it does is the company will go to our various sites and they identify structural and non-structural stormwater controls at each facility. And then they'll list any findings, significant materials that are needed to be compliant.
So this is, they're just going to identify things, and then if things are identified, then it's going to be a further cost?
Yes. It's more like inspection and routine maintenance scheduling.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, I saw Arch Environmental, and I went,
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I always freak out when.
So that's their fees to cover that whole inspection.
Yeah, okay, all right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there any more discussions? Seeing no further discussion, we will conduct a roll call vote to accept Resolution 11.26. Secretary Perkins?
Yes.
Trustee Booz?
Yes.
Vice President McIntyre?
Yes.
Trustee Relaford?
Yes.
Trustee King?
Yes.
Treasurer Luna is absent. Myself was a yes. 6 yes, 1 absent. Proceed, Mr.
I
Jones.
seek a motion and a second from the board to approve Resolution 21.22, Flint Board of Education schedule of regular board meeting 2025.
Hold on.
You skipped 11.27.
11.1.27.
Computers at home.
I did skip it. I skip it.
on
Excuse me.
Okay.
I seek a motion and a second from the board to approve Resolution 11.27, authorization to replace computers at homes.
I make a motion to approve 11.27.
Support.
It's been properly moved and second. Is there any discussion?
Is this for students or all students? Okay.
Students.
Okay, so these are the stolen computers. And this is what the deductible costs to replace the computer, correct?
No, this is the actual cost of the computers, and then we'll be reimbursed by the insurance minus the deductible.
Okay, so how much do you think will be reimbursed for this? It's what, 13,000?
So we should be recovering $11,338.93.
Less the deductible.
Less, okay, and that's what the deductible will be, and then, okay. But right now,
So what happens is we cover the entire cost, and then we submit that invoice as paid to an insurance company. They take out the deductible and send the remaining.
and then is this the same computers that are being replaced, or is this like a different system? Is like Blum of Minnesota where the original computers were from?
That, I don't have that information. I'm assuming that that is the case, because these were the esports, for the esports program at homes.
Oh, awesome.
And so, more than likely, they were to replace those. So
Okay.
they should be the same computers.
Okay,
Yes.
just, yeah, just, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any more discussion? Seeing no further discussion, the motion approved Resolution 11.27 will be conducted by a roll call vote. Secretary Perkins.
Yes.
Trustee Booth.
Yes.
Vice President McIntyre.
Yes.
Trustee Rutherford.
Yes.
Trustee King.
Yes.
Myself, yes. Treasurer Luna absent. 6 yes, 1 absent. Proceed, Mr. Jones.
Right. I seek a motion and a second from the board to approve Resolution 21.22.
So moved.
Support.
It's been properly moved and second. Is there any discussion? Trustee
Laura can go first.
King.
Yeah, could we, the only issue I have is only in July the 16th.
For this one coming up,
Yes, so it says July 16th for TBD for the schedule. Could we move that to the 23rd?
23rd? I
Yes.
think that's the request.
Can we do that?
Do it for 23rd.
Yeah.
Can we move board members? We are making a request to move the regular move from the 16th to the 23rd.
Pam, are we good there?
I'll be out of town. I won't be here. I won't be here.
On the 23rd of July.
I'll be out of town.
We're talking about the 23rd of July.
Oh, okay, I'll be here.
I'll be out of town.
We need 4 members, at least 4.
That's okay. I'll be out of town. That's fine.
To the, okay, sorry, repeat, what
From the
date?
16th to the 23rd.
23rd?
It'll be conducted by a roll
So
call.
who's not gonna,
I won't.
you're not gonna be able to be at the 23rd?
That's correct.
And you're not gonna?
I will.
She will.
You will. You won't.
I will.
You will at the
I
23rd,
can do the 16th, yeah.
but you can't do the 16th. Okay. And then trustee Rutherford
I'll be up north.
on both dates?
Whichever one you changing it from, I was available on the 16th. I can make that one, but I can't make the following week.
And trustee King?
So myself, I know Dylan couldn't make the 16th either.
And he can make the
So
23rd.
I can make the 23rd.
Dylan can make the 23rd.
Dylan can too, he said.
So what is the 30th?
I'll see if I can make an adjustment. I'll do the best I can to make it.
Yeah, I just wanted to
I just
make
gotta
sure
move
that
something
was-
around.
It
It's
was
okay.
okay with you.
Yeah, it's fine,
Okay.
I'll be here,
I guess.
So for the record, we're moving the regular board meeting scheduled is July the 16th to July the 23rd.
Do we need to make a motion to correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so this is just the grant that is on page
location is, we still gonna do, eventually we're gonna have to move to a new location.
Yeah.
Eventually, we're gonna have to move.
And then also, if I may,
We trying to let me finish this up.
Laura can go, after you.
Okay, go ahead.
it's kind of been a quote-unquote tradition not to have a cow in June, and you can see where it adds to confusion. And like that's only been because the previous board members, way before all of us, didn't want to have a cow in June. And I would recommend that, given the urgency of the things that we need to accomplish, that we include a different date for a cow instead of having the budget hearing, the cow, or no cow, if that makes sense, on June. So on that we add a cow on June the 10th.
Of next year, right?
Yes,
Hold on, let me find my schedule.
June 10th, 2026.
Okay.
That way, June 17th, we can have the budget hearing as well as the regular board meeting, and separate it from a cow, if that's permissible.
So we're having 2 meetings in June. You want to do the
Yes.
16, I meant the 10 is your cow, and the 17 your action
Yes.
item. Okay. And then
Well,
we're,
we'll have, so 3 meetings, but one will be on the 10th, and then 2 will be on the 17th.
oh, you got the budget hearing?
Yeah.
Okay.
I can make that.
Okay, then we're moving July the 16th to the 23rd.
And I can check for us to have that meeting at Potter.
Okay. And so then we're going to determine the next meeting
Yeah.
be at Potter.
If something is already scheduled at Potter, then we probably will just have to come back here to have the meeting
But eventually, we're going to have to make that move.
to Potter in the Cube.
Could we, if I may, Les Laura, if you were finished, I can go after.
Yeah, I'm thinking.
Okay. If we could,
Here and here.
from August on, could we just move all our meetings from August, does that give enough time from August on to move our meetings to Potter?
Your regular board meeting?
Yeah, all our meetings hereafter.
So from August 20th,
Yep, all the way down. So that give you time to get Potter together, right? From then into August
Yeah.
20th.
Depending on their after-school programming. I just have to make sure that we can have that time and date. I'll check. I'll make sure it's all set. We have to move anyway. But you also have the opportunity for, after September, you have an opportunity for the Cube as well.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah, we can
I
move
just don't
around.
want to,
Yeah.
right, just put you all, we say
So-
Potter and
yeah.
that's it. Potter still has after-school programming and plays and stuff they're gearing up
Cool.
for. Yeah.
So can we just hold for Potter for now, and then we
Yeah.
make adjustments later?
Yeah,
Okay.
if that's okay.
So are we clear?
can we do the times at 6:30?
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Okay, so Pam, we're going to do the times at 6:30 and put Potter down? With our-
Tentatively Potter?
Tentatively?
Yep, tentatively Potter. And board, are you saying 6:30 for the times?
Yes.
Okay.
And then we're changing the July date to the 23rd, and then adding a cow on June 10th, 2026?
Point of information. Can we change back to having our board meetings at 5:30? Why remember we was having them at 5:30, then we went to 6:30? Was there a conflict of interest or something?
What had happened was
Some people
that
couldn't get off of work, I think.
they would do cows at 6 and then have the regular meeting at 6:30, and then we started doing 5:30s for cow and then 6:30s for regular meet. So I mean, it's really up to
I mean, they used to do 5:30 regular board meetings.
Yeah.
But that's the wishes of the board.
That's
It's up to
fine
you.
with me, 5:30.
It's up to you.
But some people have to travel.
You gotta travel
Yeah.
and work.
Yeah, some people have
Oh.
to travel time, so we'll keep it at 6:30.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, and I will, Pam will send some information out about Potter, and then we'll decide on the cube later,
Okay.
once it opens.
So
Yeah.
there was a,
The next July meeting? We're gonna check on Potter. Yeah, we're gonna check on Potter. If Potter doesn't work out, we'll just come back here.
so there was a motion on the floor and it was second. We had discussion. And the motion now is to accept the schedule with the amendment changes. Could we use that term? Okay.
No, we just, because it was a tentative.
It was tentative,
It
yeah.
doesn't have to be amended.
Okay. We'll do a roll call vote to accept item number 21.22. Secretary Perkins,
Yes.
Trustee Booz,
Yes.
Vice President McIntyre,
Yes.
Trustee Relaford,
Yes.
Trustee King,
Yes.
Treasurer Luna absent, myself, yes, 6 yes. Proceed, Mr.
I
Jones.
seek a motion and a second from the board to approve item 21.23, board meeting sound technician services 2526.
I move to approve item 21.23.
Support.
Been properly moved and second. Is there any discussion? Seeing no further discussion, the motion to approve item 21.23, board meeting sound technician service, will be conducted by a roll call vote. Treasurer Luna is absent. Trustee King,
Yes.
Trustee Relaford,
Yes.
Vice President McIntyre,
Yes.
Trustee Booz,
Yes.
Secretary Perkins.
Yes.
And myself, yes, 6 yes, 1 absent.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I make a motion to approve item 21.24.
You gonna take that on from
Support.
Mr. Jones?
Yeah,
huh?
come on, we gotta go. I mean, yeah, I'm sorry.
Oh.
Yeah,
I said support.
okay. Come on.
No, you
Let's do
bad.
things in decent and order. It's been properly moved and second. Is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, roll call to approve item 21.24. Secretary Perkins.
Yes.
Trustee Booz.
Yes.
Vice President McIntyre.
Yes.
Trustee Relaford.
No.
Trustee King.
Yes.
Treasurer Luna, absent. Myself, yes. 5 yes, 1 no, 1 absent.
I seek a motion and a second from the board to approve item 21.25, Assistant Director of HR Shared Services Contract.
So move.
Support.
It's been properly moved and second. Is there any discussion? Seeing no further discussion, we'll conduct a roll call vote to accept item 21.25. Secretary Perkins?
Yes.
Trustee Booz?
Yes.
Vice President McIntyre?
Yes.
Trustee Relaford?
No.
Trustee King?
Yes.
Treasurer Luna absent. Myself, yes. 5 yes, 1 no, 1 absent. Proceed, Mr. Jones.
I seek a motion and a second from the board to approve item 21.26, Business Office Manager Shared Services Contract.
So move.
Support.
It is properly moved in second. Is there any discussion? Seeing no further discussion, Secretary Perkins?
Yes.
Trustee Booz?
Yes.
Vice President McIntyre?
Yes.
Trustee Relaford?
No.
Trustee King?
Yes.
Treasurer Luna absent. Myself, yes. 5 yes, 1 no, 1 absent. Proceed, Mr. Jones.
I seek a motion and a second from the board to approve item 21.27, Special Education Shared Service Contract.
So move.
Support.
It been properly moved in second. Is there any discussion?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I just want the record to reflect that we need in-house services. All these shared services, there's nothing concrete. If these individuals decide to leave, we are at ground zero. It just comes a time to where we need to have our own staff in these key positions if we want to move forward. Thank you.
Is there any more discussion?
Yes. It's the opposite, Madam Chair. We're doing a contract with not a person, we're doing a contract with the ISD.
the whole
So it's the opposite. So if
Not at
a person decides to leave, the ISD is still required to give us the services. If I had a person that was an employee of the district, which I'm not so against, but at this time I am, then we would have to start the process of trying to find someone, and we wouldn't have anyone to support that work. So for me, it's the opposite, and having a contract with the ISD is better than going it on our own at this time.
Trustee McIntyre?
Yeah, absolutely. I think in theory, having an in-house services are ideal, but this is not ideal, especially given the situation that we're in with the federal and the state and all that kind of thing. I think this has been discussed extensively. We would love to be able to get the district, the enrollment back up, the services back in, our buses back in-house, all that kind of stuff. Hopefully, we'll get there one day. This is not that day, as Superintendent Jones said. We were in a situation where we had in-house services and we had employees who resigned abruptly and then extorted extra contract money from the district. So that was not ideal, definitely. So this is the best we can do for right now. And like I said, theoretically, or ideally, yeah, let's get back to having it all in-house and all unionized. That's the goal, but little by little, I think we're doing a great job with the meager pittance that we're allowed, and we're keeping the schools public, and we're keeping them going, and good job, team.
Totally clueless.
Any more discussion? Seeing no more discussion, we'll conduct a roll call vote to approve item 21.27. Secretary Perkins?
Yeah.
Trustee Booth?
Yes.
Vice President McIntyre?
Yes.
Trustee Relaford?
No.
Trustee King?
Yes.
Treasurer Luna? Absent myself. Yes, 5 yes, 1 no, 1 absent. Proceed, Mr. Jones.
I seek a motion and a second from the board to approve Resolution 25.5, Michigan High School Athletic Association 25-26 membership.
So moved.
Support.
It been properly moved and second. Is there any discussion?
Yes, ma'am.
Trustee McIntyre?
All right, can we get a yep
Yep,
that
yep
we're
on that.
allowed to be back in these association, and
Right.
we're gonna take back our rightful place as athletes
That's
in the
right.
school. Just like I said, little by little, we've got what we hope to see, and we're working towards it. And this is one of those things. I don't want to remind you guys of, well, which I'm just about to remind you guys of the same shameful situation where we were excluded.
Oh, yeah.
Excluded from the county athletic associations. Can you believe that? Flint schools
I
not
don't
allowed
believe
in. Well, you know. So anyway, I just want to say, yes, congratulations to all of us for getting us back to that place, and I hope to see great things from our athletes, and yeah.
Any more discussion?
I'm excited.
Seeing no further discussion, we'll conduct a roll call vote to accept Resolution 25.5. Secretary Perkins?
Yes.
Trustee Booth?
Yes.
Vice President McIntyre?
Yes.
Trustee Relaford?
Yes.
Trustee King?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Treasurer Luna is absent. 6 yes, 1 no. Proceed, Mr.
I
Jones.
seek a motion and a second from the board to approve Resolution 25.6, authorization to approve the consolidated application.
So moved.
Support.
It been properly moved and second. Is there any discussions? Seeing no discussion, the motion to approve Resolution 25.6. Secretary Perkins?
Yes.
Trustee Booth?
Yes.
Vice President McIntyre?
Yes.
Trustee Relaford?
Yes.
Trustee King?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Luna is absent. 6 yes. Proceed, and that's it. Do any board member have any comments or remarks before we adjourn?
Madam Chair,
Proceed.
we just had a staff member retire with 45 years, I do believe.
Who was that? Oh,
I believe the name is Brenda Greene, if I'm not mistaken, and definitely didn't want that to happen without the acknowledgement. So kudos to.
Is it Brenda Greene? I was asking.
Yeah, hold on.
Okay.
It's
It's in the package. Okay.
Yeah, it's in the package. I just was
Well,
looking at it.
congratulations, shout out
I'm
to Ms.
sorry.
Greene.
Yes, definitely.
Is there any more comments?
Where did she retire
From
from?
here.
From what school? This,
Eisenhower.
Oh, no.
Eisenhower?
Eisenhower, yep, Eisenhower, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
Mr.
with
Jones?
that, I wanna-
Okay,
I
go
just-
ahead,
I just
proceed.
want to announce an event for tomorrow. Tomorrow is Juneteenth.
Right.
Yay.
And the Flint Juneteenth celebration, the first half Flint schools will be present. Max Brandon Park, 3606 DuPont Street. The Flint Juneteenth Parade, Max Brandon Park, 3606 DuPont Street. We're going to have parents and staff at that event. And then the second half is at University of Michigan
Michigan
Community
lawn.
Park from,
On the lawn.
from 6 to 9 p.m. So I just wanted to announce those events that is coming up for tomorrow and wishing everyone a happy Juneteenth. Thank you.
I want to say
What about them
one,
yard signs?
We got them.
I want to say that my children and I will be out there as vendors. We got paparazzi jewelry to sell. We got turkey tips. We got turkey tips and greens and yams and cornbread. And we got hot catfish sandwiches. Uh-huh. So come one, come all.
All righty then. Then there's no more comments. The Board of Education will hold its next meeting on July the 23rd, 2025 at 6:30. Seeing no further business of the board, I declare this board meeting adjourned. Oh, sorry. I'm ready to go. 9:14. No, I didn't.